What up, everybody? Good morning and a very, very happy Friday to you all. A TGIF. Big thanks for making us a part of your starts on this April 18th. Whether you're listening on the radio dials, 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Also available online at sportstalk1051.com. You got your Google and Alexa home devices, your smart speakers. Download the app, take us on the go. Got video streams are also up and rolling: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch. Yeah, that's the four, right? There we go. I'm ready for the weekend, man. It's been a week and getting ready for next week here. So, oh man, we got a busy program though. Before we're heading off for the weekend, what do we got on the good old dockets for us this morning? Well, we're going to talk a little bit more draft. Mike Renner will be joining us today at 8:05 from CBS Sports, formerly of Pro Football Focus, rescheduling from just a couple of days ago. So he will be joining us a little bit later, just about 2 hours from now. So be good to catch up again with Mike, as all week from today will be day 2 of the NFL draft. So again, Mike will join us around 8:05. We've got Brandon Berg also joining us. He'll be back, and we'll do a little inside the trading room. We'll talk some Brewers and some draft with him. Too, we got inside the trading room with Dr. Crow coming up a little under an hour from now, about an hour from now. So we'll catch up with him, and we're going to talk some. Mentioned a little bit earlier, we'll talk some Brewers because the Brewers are back at it tonight, taking on the Athletics for a 3-game series before the Brewers embark on a little bit of a long road trip. A little bit of a long road trip there. So we'll talk some Brewers, look ahead to this series, and yeah, kind of do some picks with that too. Have some fun with that. But we'll talk some Bucks as they will begin their postseason run coming up starting tomorrow, noon tip time. And Bucks, they got some good news yesterday. They got some good news with Dame time. Damian Lillard fully cleared for basketball activities. Doc Rivers yesterday, too, saying that he was a full participant. He's off of blood thinners, dealing with that blood clot in his calf. So still ruled out for game 1, which is tomorrow. Still ruled out for that. However, I mean, not necessarily ruled out for the rest of the series or even game 2. So maybe I'll say this: I'm shocked, and I know part of the statement from the Bucks too was that this was kind of a historic recovery. So Bucks general manager John Horst in a statement: "We're thrilled for Dame. Our priority, excuse me, has always been Dame's health. We're grateful to our oh, tickle in the throat. We're grateful to our medical team for diagnosing and treating his DVT." That is the worst thing when you have a tickle in your throat and you're on the radio. My apologies there. Holy moly. All right. Let's start that statement over again. Our priority has always been Dame's health. We're grateful to our medical team for diagnosing and treating his DVT at an early stage, and for world-renowned hematology specialists at Mayo Clinic. Every step of Dame's recovery has been at the direction of world-class medical professionals and their specific and strict protocols that have allowed for Dame's safe and healthy return to play. Doctors have told Bucks officials that the speed of Lillard's recovery has never been seen before, but it occurred because of early treatment, detection, and specialists working on him before a formal diagnosis. This could have been career-threatening, Doc Rivers went on to say, or it was the fact that there's a very good chance he's going to play in the playoffs for us. That's a godsend. So, yeah, again, not going to be playing in game 1, but maybe after that, we could see Damian Lillard. So that would be huge. It's huge overall if Dame does return, maybe for game 2 and such, but even more huge if the Bucks can steal game 1 on the road without Dame get that home court advantage and maybe get Dame back a lot quicker than a lot of us expected. So good news there. Does that change your thoughts on the I'll tell you right now, kind of changes it for me. Kind of changes it for me a little bit. So we'll talk some Bucks, talk a little NBA playoffs as we'll wrap up the play-in portion of the postseason or play-in portion of the playoffs tonight. But really kind of gets going here a little bit more. Feels more like the playoffs starting tomorrow and such. So, what else we got to talk? We'll talk a little green and gold. Jaire Alexander. We're going to talk a little Jaire Alexander. I should say Jordan Love and Jaire Alexander because Jordan Love was on Up and Adams yesterday and was asked about Jaire Alexander and a situation with Jaire Alexander. And he said, I need to reach out to Ja, see what the deal is. Ja, he has his own world going on. I'm going to let him handle his own business to see what's going on. But that's my guy right there. He's definitely a player we need back. Just the play style he plays with, who he is on the field. I mean, that's a guy we need to have around. So we will see what happens. Locker room wise, he is a character. You never know what you're going to get with Ja. He's a guy who interacts with everybody on the team and he jokes around, but he also has that serious side to him, a competitor. The player on the field is a whole nother area that we would be losing if we didn't have him. I'm hoping Ja is still there with us. We'll see, but that's my guy right there. So how much sway do you think Jordan Love could have in this whole situation? Do you think it could change? Could the pendulum swing in the other direction? Could it go a different way here? What do you think? Should it go different? Should Jordan Love's opinion matter to Goody? You know, going back a few years ago, not to bring up his name just because he was on McAfee yesterday, but that was kind of a gripe from Aaron Rodgers. Remember that whole ordeal presser when he came back to training camp and that like hour-long presser, and he griped about, you know, maybe not having a little bit of an opinion or his, you know, input on rosters and that. Should Jordan Love's opinion on the matter with Jaire Alexander come into play here? You know, if you're Jordan Love and you feel that strongly about how important Jaire is to the team, do you make a phone call to Goody? Maybe he already has. I don't know. Maybe he feels like, hey, that's the business side, staying out of it. But if you're Jordan Love and you feel that strongly, should you make your opinion known to the decision makers? And if you are the decision maker, in this case Goody, should you take into consideration Jordan's thoughts on it? We hear about this leadership council that's with the Packers. You know, we hear about that for the last few years. It's a select group of players on the team, and we've heard Matt LaFleur, you know, when he's talked about when he goes into the locker room and gets some feedback from some of the players and such, you know, he's got his players over there. But I'm curious now. I still feel like Jaire's not going to be back in Green Bay. I feel like that ship has sailed and is completely gone. But I think it adds a little bit more of a wrinkle to the whole thing when you got Jordan Love out there now publicly saying we need Ja back. And, you know, I'm sure he's fully supporting a good friend of his too and trying to, you know, say this guy's a really good dude, really good player, helping out his buddy there too. But I don't think it changes anything. But it adds a little extra juice to this whole conversation here. So but what are your thoughts on that? Hit me up with the text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912, or you can comment on the video streams or hit us up on the socials this morning. So we'll hit that up as we get and get back to a little bit more draft talk, as again, we're less than a week away from the opening round. But a week from today is my favorite day, day two. of the NFL draft. I love day 2. I love rounds 2 and 3 because I feel like that's where you really find your players that could be your depth players, some really good talent that could be contributors still, some hidden gems into these 2 rounds here. So I love day 2. I love rounds 2 and 3 when it comes to draft because round 1 has got all the flair, right? It's the first round picks. It's the guys that a majority of fans already know about or have heard the most about. But I feel like it's rounds 2 and 3 where you're going to get your guys that can kind of fill out your roster and fill out some of those holes and be contributors right away too. So I like Friday of the NFL draft. So we'll hit that up and talk a little more draft. We got a little cream of the crop. So if you want to make your picks for cream of the crop, you can do so by letting us know. We'll hit that up in the 8 o'clock hour. Also in the 8 o'clock hour, we'll do a little AJM Automotive, Pump the Brakes, or Full Throttle. We'll do some Carpet City Flooring Center inside the training room with Brandon with the spring sports season in full bloom right now. So we'll hit that up too. So lots to get to. Let's jump right into it. We've got some Bucks chat. Damian Lillard, really good news about him. Won't see him tomorrow, but could we see him shortly after? I think it's possible, Gabe, too. I mean, you had Doc say he did everything at practice yesterday. Full clearance. Might just be kind of getting back into a little basketball shape and such. So that's probably why he's not going for game 1. But game 2, I think it should be fully on the table here. And I think it just ups the ante here a little bit more too. If the Bucks can steal game 1 without Dame and take that home court, whoo, yeah, let's go, baby. So we'll hit that up. We'll talk a little Brewers. Brewers also making a move yesterday. Oliver Dunn option. So I mean, just one day of using his torpedo bats and getting the squeeze, but he's optioned down to AAA, and it sounds like Caleb Durbin is on his way to Milwaukee. Brewers fans are probably sitting here saying right now, "I told you so," because we all thought that third base was a big question mark, a weakness. Well, right now, the production that they're getting on the offensive side from third base, they're ranked 29th in OPS from their third baseman. Brandon Woodruff, by the way, he's going to be pitching in the early game today. 1:10 game for the Timber Rattlers for another rehab start. So inching closer to Woody coming back. So we'll talk some Brewers too. And let me know what your thoughts are on the love comments about Jaire. We'll try our best, maybe not to talk about Rodgers from yesterday. So because that's going to be all over the place. All right, let's get into it. Hit me up with those messages too. I want to hear from you this morning. Text me, tweet at me, Facebook me, video stream comment. What up, Joe, on video? So, all right, we'll be back in just a couple minutes. Coming up Saturday, May 3rd at the VFW Post 305. You got a Kentucky Derby party going on starting at 4 p.m. Come and watch the race with the fine folks at VFW Post 305. Drink specials, food specials, and because it is the Derby, bring your Derby hats. Prizes for the top three Derby hats. So you don't need to bring a hat to come and enjoy the fun, but if you do have a hat, you want to win something, want to show it off, head on over to VFW Post 305 and maybe you can win a prize. Again, Saturday, May 3rd, 4 p.m., VFW Post 305 on Star Avenue. All right, let's get things rolling here this morning. So threw out a few different topics of conversation out there for y'all. Bucks, Brewers, Packers, Jordan Love's comments on Jaire Alexander. Let's start off with the Bucks because I think this is a big kind of a change in maybe how we view or how you view the Bucks going into this playoffs. I think it changed. Well, first off, let me back up. I do have to give a tip of the cap. I wanted to do this at the beginning, and I forgot, but I want to, and I just had it up here. Switch gears. Hold that thought for the Bucks here for a second. Let's give a tip of the cap to former now Saints offensive tackle Ryan Ramczyk. Announcing his retirement, dealing with some knee injuries, former Badger, but I think such a cool story. He's a Stevens Point native, and he started off playing at UW Stevens Point. So, I mean, you're talking about a guy grew up in Stevens Point, played for UW Stevens Point football, then gets to Wisconsin. I mean, like offensive line university, and as a first-round pick in 2017. That is a fantastic story. A fantastic story that I think needs to be told a little bit more. So, tip of the cap to Ryan Ramczyk, because that is pretty darn cool. So, back to the Bucks here for a sec. So, Bucks getting again that fantastic news yesterday about Damian Lillard, where he has been fully cleared from his first of all, he's off blood thinners. So he's off blood thinners and he's fully cleared for basketball activities. Now, there isn't a timeline yet. He'll continue to increase his basketball on-court activity. He won't play in game 1, but after that, I think it's on the table. Bucks general manager John Horst in a statement said, "We're thrilled for Dame. Our priority has always been Dame's health. We're grateful to our medical team for diagnosing and treating his DVT at an early stage and for the world-renowned hematology specialists at Mayo Clinic. Every step of Dame's recovery has been at the direction of world-class medical professionals and their specific and strict protocols that have allowed for Dame's safe and healthy return to play." According to ESPN, doctors have told Bucks officials that the speed of Lillard's recovery has never been seen before, but it occurred because of early treatment, detection, and specialists working on him before a formal diagnosis, according to sources. As Doc Rivers said, this could have been career-threatening. The fact that there's a good chance he's going to be playing for us in the playoffs, that's a godsend. So we'll see. I think now it's just not a matter of if, it's a matter of when we're going to see Damian Lillard. So I think we're going to at some point, not game 1, we're not going to see him in game 1, but after that, there's a pretty darn good chance. And I'll admit it, I didn't think that was going to be. I thought it was just wishful thinking and everybody trying to remain positive and such, but here we are. Doc also said after practice about Damian Lillard, he did everything, no limitations at all other than his lungs and timing and everything else. So again, maybe just kind of getting into a little bit of basketball shape. Kind of getting his legs underneath him a little bit. So as Eric Name from The Athletic said, while Lillard remains out for game 1 of the Bucks' first-round playoff series against the Pacers, his status for game 2 is unclear. Per league sources, Lillard participated in a 3-on-3 session on Wednesday and the team confirmed that Lillard participated fully in the team's practice on Thursday. Doc Rivers went on to say, you don't miss all that and just jump back in. It's just going to take a minute. I mean, it's not like he's been injured and working out. He's been injured, and that's what we can call it now, I guess, without working out. That's hard. The recovery, and this was from a doctor, a cardiologist, and medical director, Dr. Sheng Han Shen, structural heart program at Saddleback Medical Center in California. The recovery is unpredictable, and it's all based on how long it takes for the blood clot to dissolve. Depending on the person, the time it takes for the blood clot to resolve could be anywhere from 3 months to a year. I understand why teams would be like, we can't give it a timeline, because if I were the doctor, I would tell the teams, I can't give you a timeline. So, yeah, remarkable. And I'm definitely going to be asking Dr. Crow about this coming up here in a little bit for our Inside the Training Room. But this definitely changes things in this outlook for this series. Now, I think it's going to be huge if the Bucks can get this victory tomorrow at noon against the Pacers for Game 1 and steal home court advantage. If they can do that without Dame, and then say Dame comes back for Dame 2, I mean, a rested, fresh Damian Lillard. Okay, here. Now, I'm trying to maybe keep my expectations in check here. But let's be real. Dame's not a spring chicken, right? He's not some 20-some-year-old kid who can run up and down the court. When he does come back, maybe a little bit rusty, but for the most part, he's going to have fresh legs under him. And I don't know, when he does come back, is there going to be some minutes restriction on him until he kind of works his way up there? Or is it going to just be like, when he's back, he's back. He's a full go. Because you're going to have fresher legs with him. We know we got some fresher legs with Bobby Portis, missing all that time, 25 games worth. Giannis probably hasn't been doing a whole lot this week with a week off. So, you've got a veteran-led team with this Bucks squad. Maybe now going to be a little bit fresher. Which I think is huge going up against a team like the Pacers, who want to just run up and down the court. Now, they've had a week off too. There's no question about it, and that's going to bode well for them. But I think this is definitely a big boost for a Bucks team to potentially get Dame back for this series. But if they can steal Game 1 tomorrow, maybe this is going to be my optimistic outlook on this thing. Just knowing for this team, knowing that Dame there's a good chance he's going to come back. I got to imagine that's going to be such a motivating factor for them tomorrow. For this team, like, hey, one of our guys is going to be back. Let's do our job. Let's stay focused. And I got to imagine that's going to motivate them a little bit more. Like, okay, Dame's coming back. Let's go, man. We're pumped up. We're ready to go. And let's use it. I hope that team uses that as fuel. I would. And it definitely changes things. We'll make some NBA picks coming up a little bit later on and such, but this definitely changes not only this series, but maybe potentially makes, if the Bucks were to move on, maybe potentially makes another series a little bit closer and such. Who knows? But huge news for the Bucks yesterday. All right, switching gears here a little bit. Brewers-wise, they're going to be back at it tonight, beginning a series against the A's. And Brewers making a little bit of a roster change yesterday, sending down Dunn, even with his new torpedo bats, but sending him down, and it looks like Caleb Durbin is going to be called up to replace Dunn. Now, you got some left-handed pitching coming up here too, so that might have been a little bit of a factor in this as well, but also the fact that the Brewers are 29th right now in OPS from third base. They got to get some more production in this thing. So they're trading defense. There's no question. Dunn's a better defender than Durbin at third base. But they're trading defense for offense right now. They need an offensive boost. Durbin so far in 13 games at AAA Nashville is hitting where he slashed a 278, 316, and a 482. So hopefully this can kind of carry over to the Brewers and such. Now, I would imagine he's going to get plenty of playing time, but this is going to be a guy too that's going to be a threat to steal some bases. In his 294 career games in the minor leagues, he has 113 stolen bases, a record-setting 29 stolen bases in last year's Arizona Fall League before the Brewers acquired him in December. So if he does, which I'm assuming we're going to see him in the starting lineup, but that would be his major league debut if he appears with the Brewers this week, which it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So, I mean, this was the guy that a lot of us thought when the trade was made to send Devin Williams to New York for Nestor Cortez and Caleb Durbin. And a lot of us thought this was going to be the guy that's going to be the new third baseman. Doesn't have the greatest power in the world. Doesn't have a lot of power, although he does have a couple of home runs so far this year. But speed guy, getting on base, stealing some bases, kind of fits a lot of these other guys on this roster right now. And hopefully he could provide some more offense at that spot. Because I guarantee you, a lot of Brewers fans right now, when they hear 29th OPS from the third base position, a lot of Brewers fans saying, told you. This is why we thought this was the biggest question mark, or why we kept saying the Brewers need to address and get better at third base offensively. All right. We were all right. Right now, at least. Hopefully Durbin is that guy. If he's not, and we're not getting that production, I'm Matt Arnold. I'm looking for somewhere where I can get some offensive production from third base. He's going to need it. So hopefully Durbin's that guy. Hopefully he can come in. I'll take a 278 from my third baseman at this point. No question about it. So, I mean, if it's not Durbin, maybe they try bringing back Andrew Monasterio to kind of fill in. Then you got a little bit, and Durbin can play second base too. So, but yeah. First pitch for starting pitcher tonight for the Brewers, though, is going to be Freddie Peralta. Taking a look at this matchup, Freddie Peralta 1-1 with a 2.31 ERA so far this season. He has been off to a really, really good start. You got JT Ginn coming in, who has pitched in one game, started one game so far this season. He's 1-0 with a 1.69 ERA, went 5 1/3, 6 strikeouts, and that was against the Mets. He did that back on the 12th. So this will be his second start for this season. And he got a little bit of experience between these two. I mean, Brewers-wise, going up against JT, I mean, you're talking about some guys just having one at-bat here. And, of course, with the A's Athletics being on the American League, not a ton of experience with their lineup going up against the Brewers. You got a couple guys with a couple ABs against him, but nothing really to write home about. So, but I'm definitely going back to Caleb Durbin. I'm hoping the kid has a fantastic performance, and I mean, you got to root for it. You got to root for him to come in here and be like, okay, let's see this guy perform well and maybe solve our third base issues on the offensive side. Because doesn't, then you're like, where do we go from now? Who do we try to trade for? Who do we try to acquire? I'd rather just have it that they can figure this out, and hopefully Caleb Durbin is the dude that can come in and fill in that offensive role from that side. A little bit unknown. There's no question. There's a little bit of an unknown factor to it, but we'll see. All right, let's take a quick break. What do you make of Jordan Love's comments yesterday about Jaire Alexander? Do you think, if you're Goody, do you listen to what your starting quarterback said, and do you maybe like, okay, maybe we need to revisit this thing? Or do you, if you're the general manager, do you not take into account what your quarterback had to say? And it's Straight up business decision. If you're Jordan Love, you said it in a public forum that you think your team needs Jaire. Maybe he has already. Maybe he hasn't. But if he hasn't, if you're Jordan Love, do you reach out to Goody and say, man, if we're going to try to win this thing, we need Jaire. What do you think? We'll be back after these quick words. From the moment you visit Toyson Ford in Chippewa Falls, you're more than just a customer. You are an honored guest. Purchasing a vehicle can be a nervous undertaking, but with Toyson Ford's pressure-free environment, drivers in the Chippewa Valley can take comfort in knowing that they are in the best of hands, because the awesome team at Toyson Ford will work with you to help you find that vehicle that fits your needs and your budget. So give them a visit today at 1000 Chippewa Crossing Boulevard in Chippewa Falls, or check them out online at toysonford.net. We got about 15 minutes to the top of the hour. We'll do a little inside the training room coming up just past 7 o'clock. Reminder, too, don't forget to get your two-person team in for the 5th annual Kasper Classic being held at Lake Hallie Golf Course this year. You can sign up your two-person team by visiting sportstalk1051.com, and it's right on the home page there. If you're not a golfer, but you're interested in helping out Backyard Dreams, because that's what our golf event is for. It's our main Backyard Dreams fundraiser. We're looking for some prize donations, some raffle prize donations, all that stuff. Hit me up, let me know. We'll work something out. So a big thanks to all of our sponsors and people who've already reached out. I really appreciate that. And we can't have Backyard Dreams if it's not for this event, and if it's not for all of you either, because, well, I mean, you're the reason that Backyard Dreams gets going here, and that's why we're trying to, send a kiddo to Jane Reed's football camp in June, and we're going to send a kiddo to Aaron Jones' football camp in July. So if you know of a kiddo aged between 6 and 16, that would be a good nomination that we should send to either Aaron Jones's camp or Jane Reed's camp. Make that nomination, again, by going to sportstalk1051.com, clicking on the Fan Cave tab, and scrolling all the way down to the bottom, and you'll see the icons there. So nominate that child, and we'll probably close it up this week so we can get them signed up. All right, let's finish up this first hour, though, talking a little green and gold. Jordan Love was on Up and Adams yesterday and was asked about Jaire Alexander. And, well, let me just see if I can play the clip here really quick. I'd rather play it instead of read everything. But he was asked about Jaire, because obviously that's been a big topic of conversation, right? I mean, I still feel like even with Jordan Love's comments, Jaire Alexander is going to be traded in that. But I want you to take a listen to this and give me your thoughts. And the question I threw out there is, well, two parts. Should Goody consult with Jordan Love? And if you're Jordan Love, maybe he has already. I don't know. He make his feelings known to Brian Gutekunst about the importance in his belief that the Packers should go get or should keep Jaire Alexander. If you're Jordan Love, you're the starting quarterback. Should you reach out to the general manager and be like, hey, dude, we need this guy. If our goal is to win Super Bowls and to win championships, we need this guy. All right, we need this guy. So, what do you think? All right, is it going to load up for me or not? Is this, Apple IIe thing going to load up? Is the audio? Well, we'll see if the audio loads up here. I'll give it like 5 more seconds. Just have to read the quotes for you all again here too. So, but definitely Jordan Love wants, I mean, if you haven't seen the quotes and such, Jordan Love wants Jaire Alexander back in Green Bay, calling him his guy and all that. So, all right, I think it's gonna work up here. Let me try it. If it doesn't, I'll read it. All right, audio courtesy from Up and Adams.
What's going on with Jaire? When's the last time you talked to that madman?
That's a great question. I'm not sure. I need to reach out to Ja, see what the deal is. But Ja, he's got his own world going on. I'm gonna let him handle his business and see what's going on. But that's my guy right there. He's definitely a player we need back. Just the play style he plays with and who he is on the field. I mean, that's a guy we need to have around. So we'll see what happens.
When you talk locker room fits with these draft prospects, 8 picks, like what's the locker room fit for Jaire? What would, like, if he leaves, what hole is that leaving?
I mean, locker room wise, he's a character. You know, that's a guy that you never know what you're gonna get with Ja. You know, he's always you know, a guy that interacts with everybody on the team, and you know, he jokes around, but he also has that serious side to him, and a competitor. And obviously, the player on the field is a whole nother area that we would be losing if we didn't have him. So, you know, talk about rookies, to have a rookie come in and play at the level. You know, I'm not there yet. We'll see. We'll work these guys out and try and see. But you know, I'm hoping Josh's still there with us. We'll see. But that's my guy right there.
All right. So again, that's audio courtesy from Up and Adams yesterday. So I mean, you listen to it, and I wouldn't expect Jordan Love to say anything else. And I wouldn't expect him to say anything other than, "Yeah, of course we want Jaire back." You know, I would be more surprised. I'd be more shocked if he said, you know, no, you know, it's probably time to move on, or no, we don't want him back. I mean, he's not going to say that. Or, you know, if he kind of was very non-committal, where he was like, you know, we'll see what happens. If he's here, he's here. And if he's not, he's not. I think that would tell us more. So I'm not surprised Jordan Love came out and said, yeah, I want him back. I think Jaire is really loved by his teammates. I think his teammates enjoy him. I think his teammates really like him. But I don't think what Jordan Love had to say about Jaire is going to change anything about Jaire's potential return to Green Bay. I don't think it is. If Jordan Love is that adamant about wanting Jaire back for Green Bay, then yeah, he should make a phone call to Goody, or text him, or FaceTime him, if you know what I'm getting at there. And let his feelings be known. But if I'm Goody, okay, you take that, you take that phone call, you take that text. I don't think it changes your thought process, because it's Goody's call, and ultimately, you know, with consulting with the coaches, I would imagine, about what to do with Jaire Alexander. All right, Jordan, hey, you're a quarterback, you're a leader. I appreciate the input. I appreciate your opinion. Take that into consideration. Everybody wants to be heard in any type of job or any type of role, right? Anybody wants to be heard. I don't care at what level you are on the hierarchy of your business or your office or your job. Y'all probably want to be heard at some point. But we all probably understand too, like, okay, my opinion, maybe it matters, maybe it doesn't, but ultimately I'm not the decision maker. So, you know, I don't think this is going to be a situation where, you know, you had Rodgers a few years ago going up there at day one of training camp press conference and kind of, you know, blasting the front office for not listening to his opinions and not listening to his thoughts on roster construction. Don't think it's going to be to that level. For one, Jordan Love is still fairly young, and I don't think I don't know. I've never met the guy and such, but I don't think he's of that mindset. Hopefully he never would be, about like, hey, you guys got to listen to me. You know, I'm the quarterback. I'm highly paid and all that. You guys need to listen to me, and I, you know, my opinion should have some sway into this matter. I don't think we're there. And I don't think, you know, Jordan's comments about Jaire, we need him back, we need him here and such, is going to change anything. I don't think. It adds a little bit more flavor to the conversation, if you will, but it doesn't necessarily change things. I still feel like Jaire's gone. I still feel like Green Bay, and specifically Goody in this point, is holding out and trying his best to get as much as possible as he can in return for Jaire Alexander. He's trying to get a high pick. I still feel like, we talked about this yesterday, I still feel like it's going to be a situation. I wouldn't be surprised if it's not a pick for this year. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a pick for next year, and it's all going to be based off of playing time. I know the report out there is that, and this was from Tom Silverstein, that Packers were close. They've had interested parties, but the hangup has been Jaire's contract and Jaire's unwillingness to kind of alter his contract. And I get it, from a team that's trading for Jaire. Yeah, you probably want that contract altered. But you're Jaire, and you're like, no, I still want my money. it's a little bit of a game of chicken. There's 3 parties involved here, and 2 out of the 3, it sounds like, are ready to make this happen, and that's the Packers and insert team here. But the holdup is Jaire and his representation not willing to adjust the contract here. So ultimately, I still feel like it's going to get done. Maybe Green Bay eats a little bit of that contract. I don't know. But ultimately, I don't think it's going to be for a draft pick this year, because I think it's going to be for a draft pick for next year, and it's going to be based off of playing time. Like we saw with the Rodgers deal with the Jets, like we saw with the Favre deal with the Jets. But in this case, I think Favre's one, if memory serves me correct, a lot of it depended on, if the Jets made the playoffs and how deep they made the playoffs and that. Whereas with the Rodgers one, it was the playing time, right? Well, if he plays a certain amount of percentage of snaps, then that second-round pick turns into a first-round pick, and we know what happened. He got hurt, and it was a second-round pick. So I feel like it's going to be whoever trades for him, it's initially going to be, I'm just going to throw out a round. I'm not saying this is what I think it's going to be. Maybe it's initially a 6th-round pick, which will just probably uproar a bunch of Packers fans. A 6th-round pick for Jaire, but there's probably going to be playing time incentives. If he plays 70% of the snaps, it turns into a 5th round. If he plays 80%, 85% of the snaps, maybe it turns into a 4th round. That sort of thing. That's why I feel like it's probably not going to be a draft pick for this year, unless somehow Goody can work this out to where it's like a 7th round this year, which will probably still upset a lot of Packers fans. But then in the following year, it's initially a 6th, but could go up to a 3rd or something. I'm just throwing out scenarios based off playing time. I mean, the clock is kind of ticking right now for that to get done for the draft, and it could happen on draft day. We've seen players get traded on draft day and such, and he could, get traded, on the final day of the draft for a late pick if that were to be the case. But ultimately, too, I feel like teams are probably going to be like, okay, interested teams in Jaire, they're going to be like, okay, let's revisit these talks after the draft. We'll see if we're still interested. Because there may be some teams that initially were interested, price tag's a little too high, they're going to go into the draft, maybe they get their corner, maybe they get it early, and then they're like, no thanks, we're not interested anymore, we drafted this guy, and we're going to roll with this guy. Or maybe there's teams that weren't initially interested because they had a game plan to go into the draft to get a corner. Maybe it didn't work out, and they're like, now they're going to be a part of the conversation. I could be completely wrong, but that's where I feel like it's shaping up to be. And we're not going to have a resolution on the Jaire situation. We're not going to have a trade with Jaire until after the draft. So anybody hoping that we were going to get an extra pick for this year, I don't think it's going to happen at this point. But that's just my opinion. So, all right. A couple minutes to the top of the hour here. So you can hit us up with some text if you'd like on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line at 715-830-1912, or hit us up on the video streams. I know we got some comments over there. We'll get to those coming up a little bit later on. Coming up in the next hour, we'll catch up with Dr. Crow for a little inside the training room. Definitely be talking about Dame and the latest news surrounding Damian Lillard. We'll catch up with Brandon. We'll do some inside the training room. We'll talk some more Brewers with him. Coming up in a little over an hour, about 8:05, we'll talk with NFL draft analyst Mike Renner from CBS Sports, formerly of Pro Football Focus. So we'll catch up with him. Then after that, we'll do a little cream of the crop. Who are your picks for cream of the crop? And then we'll do a little AJM Automotive, pump the brakes, or full throttle. Hey, if you got any good questions that you think would make for pump the brakes or full throttle, I'm open to any good ones. Send them on over too. All right. If you think you got a good one, send it on over. Maybe Brandon and I will select it for our pump the brakes or full throttle segment coming up in the 8:00 hour. So again, I know a couple of you reached out because you're going to the drafts. Are we doing anything? I'm going to talk to B about it today. Maybe we'll do a little meetup or such, and I'll keep you posted. Just make sure you're following along on Facebook or social media and such for some deets over there. All right. So I'm still waiting to hear back and finalize some other stuff for some scheduling stuff and that. But yeah, if you didn't see too we've got coming up in the next few days, either in person at the draft or via the telephone, we've got a few draft experts that are going to be joining us. So obviously Mike Renner is going to be joining us today. We've got scheduled to appear either on the phone or in person. Chad Reuter from NFL.com, working with Ben Fennell to get him back, and then you probably see him on TV a lot. Matt Miller from ESPN. He's scheduled to join us at the draft and hang out with us for a little bit over there too. So that should be a lot of fun as well. So, and more to come. Schedules are kind of all up in the air at this point with everybody. So, but a big thanks to these guys because this is their Super Bowl week. I mean, this is their busy time, so they're taking some time away from their schedules to talk with us here in the Chippewa Valley. So, big thanks to them. All right, one in the books. We got a couple more to go here. We got some news updates, and we'll kick off the next hour. Talk a little inside the training room with Dr. Crow. We'll be back after these quick words.
WAYY Eau Claire, W286CK Eau Claire, Sports Talk 105.1 and 790 AM. From the 715 Newsroom, it's your news done differently with Morgan McCarthy.
Well, good morning. Here's what we're learning today. Coming to the end of our week, we look to the courts in a case that a lot of people have been following out of the state. A gavel drop with a $2 million cash bail set for the man accused of abducting a pregnant Wisconsin teenager and then leaving the state. This is the case of 40-year-old Gary Day. Now, he faced a judge in Dodge County Court as he came back to Wisconsin recently, and that charge was for child abduction and child enticement. Police say that the teen was missing for nearly 2 months. She is 5 months pregnant with Day's child. The judge is ordering Day to have no contact with the girl, her family, or any other minors, citing his extreme flight risk. Well, here in Eau Claire, a man who's accused of burning down his own bar and grill in 2021 made his first court appearance. He's being charged with 1 count of arson of a building with intent to commit fraud, and that is a Class C felony. As according to court documents, the lawyer did try to dismiss the case, but it was denied. It's out on $10,000 signature bond. Will be back in court coming up May 29th. A gavel drop has a 39-year-old man from Eau Claire sentenced in federal court related to drugs and specifically meth. 39-year-old Cody Hobbs was sentenced to 110 months in prison for 3 counts of distributing methamphetamine. As court records show, he was a repeat offender and moving pounds and pounds of drugs. Eau Claire City County Health Department launched a new way to track communicable diseases, saying that they have that dashboard so you can track things like flu, sexually transmitted diseases, and other things. You can find a link online. Check that out and how it works at 715newsroom.com. And hippity hoppity. Now, is there something wrong in the head if you start with the feet on a chocolate bunny? Nah, you're fine. In fact, get your ears ready for more Easter candy updates with Bree. Let's hop to it, shall we?
Business Insider says we'll drop over $3 billion on Easter candy this year. They say the breakdown is 16 million jelly beans, 1.5 billion peeps, and 91 million chocolate bunnies. The National Confectioners Association says 78% of us eat the bunnies ears first. 17% start at the feet, and 5% start at the tail. Psychology Today says there's nothing psychologically wrong with you if you start tail first. I'm Bree Tennis.
Similar process around here. You know, if Casper's in a bad mood, some of us plug our
ears first.
And that's okay.
Psychology Today says there's nothing psychologically wrong with you.
For Sports Talk 105.1, I'm Morgan McCarthy.
It's a mild start to our Friday as temperatures are mostly in the 50s across the area. That is coming with widespread cloud cover, and we are tracking more chances at scattered showers and thunderstorms today. But as the day goes on, those chances will gradually decrease. It will be cloudy and breezy, highs in the mid to upper 50s. For tonight, an early shower gives way to mostly to partly cloudy skies, 34. Overall dry this weekend, highs in the 50s. On 13 First Alert, meteorologist Derek Dahlman.
I think it's time we have the talk. 30 minutes, that's all it takes. Well, at least to update your website. With WebSticks, you can buy blocks of time and use them when and how you need. Let's say you own a restaurant. With just one block of time, WebSticks can update a menu item or add a phone number. Whew, I'm glad we finally had this talk. Find out more at websticks.com. That's websticks with an X.com.
Stunning sights, more clicks, web support from Websticks.
Stop by Next Gen Power Sports in Fond du Lac during the Can-Am Upshift Spring Sale for limited time deals of 0% for 60 months or up to $3,000 rebate. Conditions apply. Visit dealer for details.
Ladies and gentlemen, sports aficionados and armchair quarterbacks, welcome to the Dan Kasper Show, where sports passion meets expert analysis. Dan's encyclopedic knowledge and infectious passion for all things sports is both impressive and sad.
I have many leather-bound books.
So get ready to laugh, cheer, and maybe even facepalm a few times.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
It's the Dan Kasper Show.
Second hour kicking off on this Friday morning, April 18th. A big thanks for tuning in wherever, however you are tuning in from. We'll get back to some more hoops and baseball talk and some more NFL draft talk coming up here in just a little bit. We got some cream of the crop. We've got Pump the Brakes, Full Throttle, all coming at you. But we begin this hour, as we usually do, talking with our doc.
Paging Dr. Crow. Breaking down the latest in sports injuries. It's time for Inside the Training Room with Dr. Crow. On the Dan Kasper Show.
He is Dr. Austin Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, joining us here this morning. Good morning, Austin. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great.
Atta boy. Hey, we got to start off talking about Damian Lillard because yesterday it was revealed that he has been fully cleared. He's even off of blood thinners with that blood clot issue that he has been dealing with. And was even reading a little bit from ESPN that they said, doctor said this is like an historic recovery because this has never happened before. And they credit a lot to early diagnosis and early treatment even before he was officially diagnosed. But I mean, just how rare is this for somebody this quick to recover from something like this?
Very. Yeah, I mean, it is certainly atypical. And like we talked about, I think a couple weeks ago on this topic, I mean, if he doesn't have any real independent risk factors, and there's a whole lot of things that make you more likely to have a blood clot. The list is pretty extensive, but if they've worked him up and said, look, you have none of these, they're going to put him in that low risk category. Even then, traditionally, they will do blood thinners for longer than this. So, I mean, it's definitely going to be a discussion about risks and benefits, but I'm sure counseling them like, look, the risk is very low. And so I think for a lot of people where it's not as big a deal, they'll just knee jerk say, hey, look, you're going to be on a blood thinner for 3 months, 6 months. Those are kind of the standard answers. Higher risk people sometimes lifetime. Obviously, that's not his case. So I think they probably had that discussion with him. But yeah, I mean, they usually won't get him off unless the clot's cleared as well. So they're probably monitoring with ultrasounds, making sure he's not having any issues there. Because the clot itself can cause some troubles. I mean, the scary thing, of course, when it breaks off and goes up into the lungs, it's called a pulmonary embolism, which can be unfortunately fatal. When they're in the clot, you can get, venous syndrome where you basically like swelling, aching, problems like that. And that's clearly cleared out as well. So presumably the clot's gone, he has no risk factors and they're going ahead. So, I mean, to answer your question bluntly, it is very fast and atypical for sure.
So is there any, maybe risk factors coming back, or once it's fully clear, like he should be ready to go and such? I mean, is there any chances of like this happening again for him in the future, potentially?
Well, I mean, of course the answer has to be yes. I mean, it happened once on its own for reasons that they don't understand. I mean, unless they're being quiet about something he had enough. But again, if there's a risk factor, they wouldn't be letting him play. So I think the odds of him having another clot are very low. And again, you can see clots fairly clearly on ultrasound. So I'm sure he's had multiple ultrasound studies that have shown this clot's fully cleared. Because once a clot begins, they propagate and get bigger. So that's one of the things I'm sure they're looking at and saying, look, this clot's fully cleared. That's probably one of the reasons they're allowing him to go back a little bit sooner. So could it happen again? Of course it could. Unlikely though. I mean, it's pretty uncommon for people who are low risk. And I can also guarantee you, they're going to be doing some things to decrease the risk of that. So he's probably going to be maybe like on a baby aspirin, wearing like compression stocking, walking around when they're flying places, things that slightly decrease the risk further. So they'll probably take some small steps, but I think his risk is pretty low.
Interesting. I want to move over to baseball now. So Cubs pitcher Justin Steele is done for the season. He's having surgery on his elbow. What they said was to repair the flexor tendon and address the ulnar collateral ligament in his left elbow. But however, they also said it's not clear yet whether Tommy John surgery is required. So are those two different things from what they're describing compared to Tommy John surgery?
So when just to put the kind of nomenclature out there, so they're probably so the flexor tendon, that's all the muscles that flex your wrist and fingers. So that goes to, if you feel your elbow, that the knob on the inside of your elbow, we call it the medial condyle. So that's the origin of all the flexors, all the flexor origins. So they all come together in like one solid lump. And right below that is our good buddy, the UCL, so aka the Tommy John ligament. So what they're likely going to do is go in, and with that procedure, you're already going right next to the tendon insertion anyway. So there must be some partial tearing there, which frankly is relatively common. It must be pretty extensive for them to want to actually do a repair. Then it looks like they're going to look at the UCL and assess it. Now, that's where they're going to get into probably the old repair, which is that internal brace procedure we've talked about in the past, versus a full Tommy John, which is when you use the term Tommy John reconstruction, that's where you're actually talking about a full reconstruction where you take a graft from somewhere else, usually the palmaris longus from the forearm, drill tunnels, and create a whole new UCL. So that's usually reserved for where we feel like the UCL is not in very good condition. Whereas if it's like a partial tear or kind of peeling up off one of the insertions or origins, then we'll opt for the repair technique. So that's probably going to be the intraoperative decision. So they're going to open it up, look at the flexor tendon, which will be right there. And this is, these are all of like millimeters apart. So these are right next to each other. So they'll look at it and then assess and decide whether the UCL needs a repair or that reconstruction. And there's been some good data coming out that the repair, when done in the right situation, has a faster recovery with equal outcomes to the Tommy John. But there's definitely needs to be a deeper delve into that, because there's what we call selection bias, because the ones who are the worst or the worst tendons get the full reconstruction. So you're already creating like, well, these ones aren't quite as bad, so they do as well. And so that's something we're looking at in the orthopedic world, of those repairs versus reconstruction. Then if I take it one step further, there are some guys who are now getting both, right? They're doing Tommy John reconstruction with the repair on top of it, the old belt and suspenders. So that's certainly something that's being discussed at the highest levels, and kind of interesting to see how it'll play out. But that's what's going to be in his case, is that repair the tendon, look at the UCL, repair it versus do the full reconstruction.
So this might be a stupid question, but when we hear somebody say elbow reconstruction versus Tommy John, are those two different type of procedures?
So a reconstruction, if they're talking about the UCL, that is the same thing. So
Okay.
UCL reconstruction and a Tommy John procedure are the same thing. The UCL repair is where you're not actually creating a new ligament there. You're basically taking these two anchors, and they have a strong suture tape that lays between it, and it's actually layered with growth factors to help the ligament itself heal. So you're basically, but in order for that to work, you need to have, in theory, at least some ligament intact in reasonable quality, because you're asking it to heal itself. If it's shredded up, then you're going to say, look, even if we get this to heal, it's just not going to be very good quality. I think we'll be back here again. So that's where that distinction comes in, is like, can we repair it versus going for a full reconstruction?
Interesting. Moving to the NFL draft, but for a player that's not in the draft but could affect somebody's draft plans, Derek Carr. So I know this was a couple weeks ago, but Saints quarterback Derek Carr, apparently they just, it was a couple weeks ago, it was revealed that he's dealing with a shoulder injury that threatens his availability for this season. According to Ian Rapport, he's weighing his options, including the possibility of surgery and such. I mean, the timing is kind of, I don't know. I think it's kind of weird in April to be finding out about this, and now maybe surgery is an option that would keep him out the whole year. When you hear stuff like that, and obviously we don't know what the full extent is, what are some possibilities that maybe he could be dealing with that would keep him out for the year?
So it really boils down to, what the ultimate treatment plan is going to be. This is actually reminiscent of actually former Saints player, Michael Thomas. Maybe remember he had that ankle injury.
Yep.
And he went through the whole offseason and ended up having ankle surgery like a week before the season started. And everyone's like, what's the deal with that? This does also sound like that, because it's been a chronic problem. reading up on it, it sounds like they're saying it's actually his AC joint. So it's an AC separation that never fully healed. So the question is what would be the treatment plan for that? Well, it depends on the severity of the AC separation. And so Jaire, I believe, had the AC separation a couple years ago that we had talked about. But there's a whole spectrum of those. They can be mild, more severe, and sometimes even on the more mild ones, you can develop some arthritis in that AC joint, which is pretty common. So if it's just simply like kind of cleaning up the joint, that's called a disc clavicle excision. I mean, he could bounce back from that pretty quickly. If they're talking about full AC reconstruction, so Anthony Richardson had that a year ago, the Colts quarterback. So that was the injury he went through. So in surgery. So I mean, if they say, look, this needs a full AC reconstruction, that's going to be the season for sure. If it's a cleanup, that could be faster. But they're being pretty tight-lipped about it, and I agree. The timeline is really weird. It's like, why now? Why wasn't? And especially since it's been going back. What they said, per some sources, quote unquote, that I think they're saying it stems back to an injury in 2023. So you're telling me this has been going on for 2 years now? It is weird. So I don't know if there's been stuff not said or if there was a re-injury at some point. It's not clear, and they're being a little tight-lipped on it. So hard to say for sure. A lot of conjecture, but that's how I would look at it playing out.
Yeah, interesting. A couple more potential high picks I wanted to get your thoughts on here quick before I let you go that maybe could affect their draft stock. But the linebacker Campbell from Alabama, he's recovering from a labrum injury. So you got a linebacker. He had surgery right after the combine, apparently, with this labrum injury. Is that something, considering the position he plays and with that type of injury, that would maybe give you a little bit of cause concern, maybe taking him out of the first round or such? Or does recovery usually go well with those type of surgeries?
The success rate is really high. So, I mean, labral injuries in tackling athletes, so linebacker safeties, we see a ton of them. In fact, there's studies that look at return to sport, and then they actually look at football, and then they look at the position. So the highest risk positions are linebacker and safety. That being said, success rate's still into the 90%. So you do a surgery on these, there's a 90+% chance that this shoulder's now stable the rest of their life. So I will tell you that these teams are not just assuming it healed well. I promise you, he had MRIs in his shoulder after surgery to assess the healing. And if they look at it and say it looks good, I think teams will certainly say, I mean, you're going to be in that 90+% chance that bounce back well. And that's the nice thing about it. Again, the success rate's high. And it's not just they get back, they usually get back to where they were before. So that being said, if the MRI looks suspicious, like, look, this is there was a cartilage injury with it, or maybe it didn't heal fully, or any number of different things, it certainly could get paused. So, I mean, I think historically, medical information wasn't released quite as much. And I think there's guys, I mean, think of drafts in the past where these guys mysteriously drop 5, 10, 20 picks, drop out of a round, where everyone's like, well, where's this guy going? I think a lot of times those were medical issues that we just never knew about. And so I think it's just a lot of it's more on the front page now. So in this circumstance, teams will do their due diligence. If they feel like it's healing well, I would see him going as a high pick because he obviously is a elite player.
Yeah. Last one is Josh Simmons, the offensive tackle from Ohio State. Now he's recovering from a patellar tendon injury. How serious of an injury is this for, I mean, he's a big dude, 6'5", over 300 pounds, with that too. You don't hear, at least a whole lot about patellar tendon injuries when it comes to this. So would this kind of give you a little bit of cause for concern?
Yeah, I mean, definitely way less typical. I mean, we certainly see patellar tendon injuries that they're not rare, but in this young, elite athlete group, yeah, those are uncommon. So pretty atypical. So when people bounce back from those, they do well. I mean, I would say there's a little bit probably more of a concern than, let's say, a labrum injury, for example. But again, I mean, you can assess the integrity of that repair on an MRI. You can do strength testing, and their teams are going to look at that. I do think the success rate for that surgery is, again, very high. It's not like if you have like a knee injury where there's a cartilage-based problem, I mean, those are things where teams are really going to pump the brakes and say, whoa, like, how is this going to play out? So most tendon injuries end up doing pretty well. I will say he'll probably lose some explosiveness for a while. And I don't mean a couple months. I mean, it could be a year or two till he gets that leg all the way back to full form. That being said, he is a very large human being. And a lot of it's going to be just based on that brute strength, which he should get back a lot of that fairly quickly. So I'm assuming he's going to stay high on the board, or at least where teams think he was. I don't think it'll affect him a ton, but it is something that they'll keep their eyes on. And again, they'll do their due diligence. If they feel like it's healing well, I'd expect him to not have too big of a drop in his draft status.
All right, since I won't be able to chat with you before the first round, what do you hope your Vikings do next week?
Oh man, that's a huge question. I mean, there's a lot of rumbling about going at the running back position if Genty's still around. I mean, I'm in the camp that running backs are the most interchangeable position in the NFL. Not to say they don't matter, because they do, but I think if you look at what teams do, I mean, back in our day, it was you had your single running back. They were the workhorse. They carried tons of carries in the season. A lot of teams, even with really good backs, are running back by committee. And so, to me, I think we have bigger holes to fill than running back. But it wouldn't shock me, at least what we're hearing in our camps, that maybe we do a move like that. I think for us, continued depth at the offensive line and in the secondary is probably where I'd like to go. But I mean, running back is something we need to look to the future. I mean, I don't think we have Aaron Jones he's had his troubles too. We'll just put it that way. I don't think he's had a full season. I don't know if he ever has, to be honest with you. I mean, he always seems to be getting dinged up here and there. So I'm guessing along those lines. So I guess secondary, offensive line, and maybe at some point the running back position. The quarterback obviously is also a question mark still. I don't think we have our backup all the way figured out yet, but I don't think we're going to fill that in the draft necessarily, but maybe a long-term project. So in the later rounds, but I guess we'll see. I think that's how it's going to play out for us.
All right, he's Dr. Austin Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Dude, appreciate the time as always, buddy. Enjoy the weekends, and we'll catch up with you soon, okay?
Absolutely. Take care.
You got it, Dr. Austin Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be back with our dude, Mr. Brandon Berg, coming up after these quick words. Almost to the bottom of the hour here on this Friday morning. Was not here last week, but he's here with us now, Mr. Brandon Berg. That ain't gonna work for you there, big guy. So that's
poppycock.
I'll just tell you that right now. That microphone or that headset's not gonna work. So, but how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm okay right now. So, getting ready for next week.
I am.
Yeah. I'm still kind of curious how it's all going to work out. I'm a little nervous.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I think we can kind of do all the planning we want, but
yeah,
there's just certain things we're just going to kind of figure out when we're there.
Right. Exactly.
And that's maybe the way the NFL is kind of approaching some things too. We'll see.
Looking
forward to it.
I am. I'll ask this in the 8 o'clock hour, a little teaser. So, but we'll talk some more draft coming up here in just a little bit. I do want to talk. It's been a couple weeks since I got to catch up with you here for some Brewers chat, Brandon. So a lot has transpired since the last time I talked to you. They're 10-9 right now. We've got Caleb Durbin that's apparently going to be coming back up. Oliver Dunn sent down to the minor leagues with his torpedo bats. But, pitching wise, we got Jose Quintana a couple starts in since I last talked to you. It sounds like Tobias, I would assume, maybe coming up here fairly quick. Brandon Woodruff's got his second rehab start coming up today. I mean, just kind of looking back at the last couple of weeks here, Brandon, Rhys Hoskins is hitting well now in the last couple of days and such. What's kind of been really standing out to you so far from this Brewers squad and since the last time I chatted with you?
Well, I think it's been a lot of just kind of seeing who is rising to the surface as far as the pitching goes, specifically the starting pitching. You mentioned Jose Quintana. He's had a really good first couple starts doing exactly what, he was brought to Milwaukee to do, which was, eat innings and he's doing it at a high level right now. And, he's not a guy that's ever going to overpower you, but, he's around the zone. He's been able to kind of work through some hard contact with us playing to the defense you got. So, there's that, Quinn Priester making a good couple, starts to start his Brewers career. He's going to be someone that's kind of a work in progress because, he was brought in, and I think it's one of those things where even though he's here, like the team, like he may look a little bit different a couple starts from now than he's looked the first few, just because of how I'm sure they're tinkering with things. Like when you get traded for during the season, you kind of adjust on the fly. You don't get a chance to kind of sit there for 2 weeks and just kind of workshop, so to speak. You got to, you're using it. You're using all the time you got to tinker, and sometimes that takes time. So I mean, those are two big things. They're obviously what we've seen out of Chad Patrick, just being able to provide quality innings. I mean, he's a guy that's he's not overpowering, but he's been able to kind of mix and match and make it work at a time where, I mean, it's been talked about a lot, but there's a reason for it. This Brewers rotation is beat up, and kind of my view of the month of April is like, if you can get through April with a 500 record, like you take that as a win, given everything that's not been there.
Back to Priester, because I didn't get a chance to talk with you when that trade happened. What was your initial reaction to it? Because I know some people said, did they give up too much for this guy? And now you look at what he's provided, though, it's like, oh, okay. But initially, did they give up? In your opinion, did they give up a lot?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could say that. I mean, when you look at the combination of, Yafir Rodriguez was a pretty, I would say a pretty significant prospect. I think he was like top 5 or top 10, sorry, in the Brewers farm system. So that's not nothing.
Right.
And then I know, some people, it was kind of the comp pick that was the thing that really kind of got them, because it's not just that you're giving up a draft pick. Remember, in baseball, that comp pick goes towards your draft pool money. Because you kind of get in baseball, you have a certain amount of money you can spend, and a lot of that comes from just how many picks you have and where they are. Each pick has a certain value, and then so I mean, that's kind of a double whammy where not only are you losing a pretty high draft pick, but also the money that comes with it. So yeah, I mean, at the time I thought, okay, they obviously there's something there they really liked. I mean, he's a former first round pick. I mean, he's someone that you can kind of see the tools, like you can see why they would be interested in, like a lot of cases when you see pitchers kind of go somewhere else, it's tweaking things. It's tweaking the pitch mix. What do you throw more of? What are you throwing more of? What are you throwing less of? And, other stuff to go with that. And, so far through 2 starts, he's done exactly what they've needed. And he's somebody that, he's 24. He's still got 6 years of control. Like, the running joke, not just with him, but I think pretty much in all sports, is if when you acquire somebody, if the first thing they say is, well, he's a former first round pick, that doesn't say a whole lot to what that person's done so far. But the good news is he's only 24. There's still a long way to go. And obviously there's something there the Brewers really like. And, early returns so far have been good.
And, do you think it factors into this is what, like, the Brewers are confident in their pitching lab and what they've been able to do with pitchers and such, where, maybe they're comfortable giving up a lot because they're confident in their system that they can maybe get some untapped potential out of this guy?
I think so. And, when you make a trade like that, that's when you're giving up what you gave up. That's not a trade where you make and you say, okay, well, and we'll see. Okay, we like this guy, but we'll see. That's when really you kind of come in like, okay, we think we have a plan for how this can work. And I'm sure the second he walked in the door, they said, hey, we're going to look to do this, this, and this, and whatever that is. That's for the analysts to know. But there's certain things you look at with him, and you'll say, okay, we feel like if we tweak this and this, like maybe these are things that other teams weren't seeing. Like if we have him do this instead of this, like maybe we can see a difference. And early returns, only a couple starts, but so far that seems to be the case.
Right. Exactly. So offensively, we're gonna, we got Oliver Dunn getting sent back down. We're gonna see Caleb Durbin. Whenever we do see him, it's going to be his major league debut and such. So, I mean, we're not getting a ton of offensive production out of third. A 29th in OPS is that, in which, like, a lot of Brewers fans are saying, duh, because maybe that was their biggest question mark or concern heading into this season and such. And Durbin's been doing fine at AAA, like 278, I think it was, so far in 13 games over there. But, I mean, he's not going to be a power guy, right? Even though he does have a couple home runs, but he's going to be, kind of a speed guy, right? Stealing some bases.
I think just on kind of a basic level comparison, the best I could make a comparison to, and even though he's off to a really good start, is Sal Frelick, where he's a guy that's not going to strike out much. He's going to take a fair amount of walks. He's going to steal bases when he gets on, and he's going to hit for a decent average. He's going to have a pretty good on base percentage. But like you said, the power's probably not going to be there. And also the other thing too is, remember playing third base. He's still relatively new to that. He played a lot more second base. So this is, I think, a situation where you mentioned the offense from that position hasn't been there. So, they're looking to get something out of that spot, and they're going to be willing to kind of let him grow at that spot. I'm sure, hitting at the bottom of the lineup, and, he should get, every opportunity. I mean, he's someone that, with him being up, I don't know if it'll still be viewed as a strict platoon or not, but, if it was up to me, I would probably give him more of a bigger share of the at-bats. And, if you're going to call up a younger guy like that, you need to give him the opportunity. I think that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, because right now it's just him and Vinny Capra, the third baseman over there. So, you mentioned Sal Frelick, and a guy who doesn't hit for a ton of power, hit his first home run just the other day and such. But you look at the start, I think he's my favorite player right now to watch because, he doesn't have all the power, and I keep saying this, but he's always dirty. He's sliding. He's going around all over the place. I love watching that guy play baseball.
He's an easy guy to root for.
Yeah.
And you're going to get the defense, Cole Glover, I mean, in right field, and he'll
and that laser he threw the other day, and I know it was still safe, but the helmet got in the way. You know what I'm talking about over at third base.
But he's come out of the gates, and he's come out of the gates strong. Like that's at a time where, especially in those first few weeks when some of the bigger names were kind of struggling a little bit, took them a little bit to get going. It was really kind of the bottom half of that lineup that was kind of carrying the offense for a bit, and
that's what Terang, who's hitting at the bottom of the lineup,
right.
Too,
now and obviously now we're starting to see more from some of those other guys, but that's kind of what you hope for with him. Like he's a guy that because the power is probably never going to be there. Like that's not that's not a guy that's going to be a superstar, but like those are the types of guys that good teams have. Like those are the kind of guys that, the way Brewers fans would look at a guy like a David Freese back in the day with the Cardinals, where it's like, okay, he's not the best guy on the team. He's not Albert Pujols, but it's like, I just know that guy's going to somehow find a way to have a big hit or a big play or two against, the Brewers. Like Sal Frelick is kind of quickly becoming that guy for opposing teams where it's like, okay, it may not be Yelich, it may not be Contreras, but it's got, I just know Sal Frelick is going to do something, and that as a fan of that team, you love to see that.
Right. Kind of, what, on a pitching side, but Quintana was against us for the longest time.
Right. That guy that's just, you kind of dread seeing because you're like, okay, is he going to do something again?
Right. Exactly. So now we got this A series, which I look at it, Brandon, and I'm looking at the rest of the schedule because right after I mean, they're on a long road trip here, 4 games against the Giants. Then they've got the Cardinals after that, then the White Sox, and they finally return home in May to face the Cubbies here and such. So I kind of look at this series too, with Freddie getting to start tonight. And kind of, I mean, at bare minimum, I want to see this team take 2 out of 3 against the A's, considering how well the Giants are off, and then you got to go play them in their park for 4 games.
Right. That's never easy. I mean, it's a bit like going to play the Rockies where, it doesn't matter how good or bad they're doing. And you mentioned the Giants are doing good, but, that's such a tough ballpark to play in. It's late at night. Like, it just, the ball doesn't always fly there. That's more of a pitcher's park. So, that's just always one of those series when you go over to the Giants. Like, if you feel like if you split it, you got out there in good shape. No matter how good or bad they're doing, and this year they're doing well.
Patrick's getting the start on Saturday. It's still TBD for Sunday. Could that be a Tobias, or do you think maybe on the road trip we'll see Tobias?
I think it's probably gonna be maybe Logan Henderson.
Okay.
Who was called up a few days ago when they're young pitching prospects. He was called up, I believe, before the Wednesday game. But I would like to see what he can do in that spot. Tyler Alexander at this point, he's had some good outings for the team, but at this point, I think you kind of just know who he is. And that is, he's a veteran. Like, he's a guy that's going to be able to get some outs in the majors, but I think he's better suited for that long relief role. Maybe you kind of tag team those two on Sunday, where if you don't want to push Henderson too late, or he just doesn't go that late, you can still come back and go and have Henderson or have Alexander be the first guy out of the rotation if you can. So I think it's probably a Logan Henderson thing on Sunday, just to see give the young guy a chance. And then I think Tobias probably returns, sometime on the upcoming road trip. And then,
we'll see with Woodruff, he's getting his second start, but I feel like that's going to be one where they're going to really push it for the 30-day max.
Yeah, I think he's going to be. I think that's going to be full 30 days, because remember, he hasn't pitched since September of 2023.
Right.
So you want to, and you have a certain amount. You have 30 days you can use for pitching assignments. So you might as well use them all. Like, there's no harm in it.
Right. Exactly. So, but and I know that's a little bit down and such with this pitching, because I was reading a little bit from MLB.com, and they're talking about 5 teams that because the NL overall is off to it's deep right now. It's really deep, and MLB.com had a list of like 5 teams that could potentially mess up the NL picture, and they had the Brewers on there with a 24% chance, and they kind of said, well, it's the pitching and such. But I think what's different about the pitching is that we know we're getting reinforcements, right? We know we're getting Tobias back, Brandon Woodruff and Nestor Cortez. Like, we know they're not there. It's not like, okay, this is who they got to trade for. We know those guys are coming back, which gives me, I would imagine, more confidence in this team.
I think so. And then also you got to remember that there could be some reinforcements in the bullpen. And the bullpen hasn't been bad, but there's always kind of movement there. And we'll see as we get further into the year. Craig Yoho is off to a good start at AAA.
Yeah.
Jacob Mizorowski is, he hasn't given up very many hits. It's been kind of the Jacob Mizorowski experience, where there's been strikeouts, but there's also been walks. But there's going to be some shuffling at some point, and it's exciting because you're right. You do have some of those guys on deck that you look at and say, okay, that could be a difference maker,
right?
As opposed to trying to kind of mine the diamond in the rough, so to speak.
Yep. So yeah, today we've got first pitch tonight 7:10, then 6:10, and then getaway day 1:10 first pitch. So all right, let's take a quick break. We'll close up the second hour. We'll talk some more Bucks as we get set for the postseason. For them, they tip off tomorrow at noon. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Coming up just past 8 o'clock, we'll catch up with NFL draft analyst Mike Renner from CBS Sports, formerly of Pro Football Focus. But Mike also is a co-host of the podcast Pushing the Pile with former offensive lineman Kyle Long. Spent the majority part of his career with the Bears and such. Howie Long's son, too. So we'll catch up with Mike hopefully here in the next 15 minutes or so. Before that, though, we've got playoff action for the NBA. I know the play-in is still going on and it'll wrap up tonight, but the Bucks tip off tomorrow at noon. So, but the big news is that Damian Lillard now, not going to be playing game one, but after that, it's kind of an unknown. How big of a difference does it make? And we'll do some picks coming up, for the playoffs and that a little bit later on in the next hour, Brandon. But compare it to maybe what you were thinking a few days before or a few days ago, where I don't know if you were like me, I just assumed Dame wasn't going to play in this series, to where it is now, where it's not a if, but a when situation. Does it completely change your thoughts on this series or not so much?
Yeah, I mean, it can't help but help the Bucks. Maybe the Brewers do. Who knows? Maybe they get excited, but the Bucks is going into the series because, I mean, the Bucks have kind of been trending in a good direction these last few weeks. But I mean, that's adding Dame Lillard is just kind of add what else can you do? Like, there's really not much you're going to be able to do in these last 2 weeks that's going to help you more than doing that. I mean, getting Bobby Portis back and getting him with a few games under his belt was big. Like, no, I think you're going into this series, which I think is kind of a a coin flip, really. I would look at it as, and anything you can do to kind of help you out is going to be big. So yeah, no, I think it's very important.
Yeah, I think it definitely changed. The other part here too is like, no, I'm not sure he did all the activities. He was fully cleared. Doc Rivers said yesterday at practice, just kind of getting his legs back and such. On one hand, I'm like, okay, you got a mid-30s guy who's going to have some fresher legs coming back. That's got to be, especially going up against the Pacers who like to run. But then it's like, okay, but is he going to be on a minutes restriction right away just to kind of get that rust off? But I thought that was going to be the case for Bobby, and he wasn't right away. So, but that's the other guy too. I mean, he's going to be a little bit fresher with this as Bobby Portis.
And he never has a shortage of energy anyway.
Right, exactly. So I think if somehow the Bucks win tomorrow and steal game one without Dame and get that home court advantage, I'm feeling really good then about this series.
Yeah. I mean, even if you just, because my first thought when I saw it was like, okay, maybe game three, maybe that first game at home, you give him like a week plus, a little over a week to kind of get his sea legs back under him, so to speak.
Yeah.
But
yeah, if you could split this.
Yeah, you take game one or you take game two, you feel really good coming home, knowing that, like you said, you're going to have home court advantage then.
Do you think, and this might actually make a good pump the brakes or full throttle, if they take game one tomorrow, that maybe it is game three then? Where it's like, okay, we stole one. Or whereas if they lose game one, then maybe he does come back for game two because you're already down 0-1.
I can understand that thinking. I do think that maybe with something like this, I just don't think you want to rush it.
Right.
So I think regardless, you want to make sure when Dame's ready to come back, like it's on his, no pun intended, it's on his time. But so yeah, I think regardless, game three is kind of what I was thinking. But you have to imagine though that that kind of itch to do it if they were to lose tomorrow might be there just a little more, because you're right, you don't want to go down 0-2, even having
bringing the series back to Milwaukee.
Right.
And you don't want to you want to try to steal, because even before the Dame news, I thought this was a series that could go 7, because you look at how different these teams are on the road compared to home, and they're the exact same on the road. They're 500, but for the longest time they were under 500 on the road. Bucks have had this long layoff, and they had finished the season winning 8 in a row. So you hope there's, you got that balance of like, okay, momentum, but they're also an older team. So you kind of want that rest too, especially for guys like Giannis and maybe Brooke. And now it's probably helped out that Dame is potentially going to be coming back because of this long layoff too. So, but yeah, I think it's a huge boost. I don't, we'll do picks next hour. If they do move on to the second round, I don't know if it matters that much more, but like you mentioned, it won't hurt. It helps out a little bit.
Right.
But
And you think, especially by that point, if they were to win, and assuming we both think, if they do, it's not going to be an easy series. Like you would think by that point, maybe Dame is kind of back in the swing of things. Then.
Right. Yeah. So definitely adds a little bit more intrigue. And I kind of was talking about this in the first hour. If I'm the Bucks now, okay, we don't have Dame for game 1, but you use it as motivation. Like, we know we're getting him now.
Right.
You know, you hear that. I think we heard it a lot when like Rodgers was hurt sometimes. Like the guys are like, well, we know he's coming back. They're kind of using that like, we got to stay focused. We know he's coming back. So when we get to, whereas if I'm this team, game 1, yeah, he's not here, but we know he's coming back. Let's use that.
Well, and the other thing too is, I mean, obviously the Pacers know.
Right.
Like they know, like, okay, like
that's true.
We better
make sure we get this one.
Make hay while the sun's shining, just in case.
Right. Yeah. So I think that definitely adds more intrigue for tomorrow's game, because you're exactly right. From that Pacer side too. So, we'll find out the rest of we'll know who the top seeds play after tonight's games, because the play-in wraps up tonight.
7-8 games.
Well, we know the 7 seeds are.
Oh, sorry.
The 8 seed games.
Sorry, yeah.
8 seed games tonight. So, which, considering who the 1 seeds are, have fun. Have fun, either Miami or Atlanta or Dallas or Memphis. So, have fun with that. But also, too, since we're talking playoffs, it's one of my favorite. I'm not the biggest hockey fan in the world, but when it comes to Stanley Cup Finals, it's a different breed. I don't know if that's the best way to describe it. It's just different.
The postseason NHL is always great.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you even go back to last year, coming down to Game 7, Edmonton and Florida. Like, it's just, there's just, it's one of the best postseasons there are, just because the intensity with it.
I agree. Like, if we always rank like all-star games, if we did it for postseasons, NBA is dead last for me. And it is what it is, but there's just a different vibe. NFL, it's always sudden death. So, I mean, you have to factor that into it, right? Baseball playoffs is drama. And I don't know if the TV does a fantastic job with it, with the sound effects, but I feel like every time you watch a baseball game on TV, you hear more of the crowd get into it. And it's probably because, well, the stadiums are more full than maybe a regular season game, but especially when you get to the like World Series, I mean, every hit, everybody just like is sitting with every hit. Like
there's just a different roar to it.
Yeah, exactly. So, but Stanley Cup, there's always something, it feels like, in every night of the playoffs.
And there's some really interesting matchups. Like, I just kind of looking at the bracket this morning and how everything developed. Like, Toronto, Ottawa is interesting. Obviously, it's an all Canada one. Like Tampa Bay and Florida, those have been two.
The Battle of Florida too.
Right, those have been two really good teams over the years. Like the Kings and the Oilers, obviously the
Wayne Gretzky Bowl.
Exactly. The Wild are playing the Vegas Golden Knights, so they're going to have some late nights.
Stars and Avalanche just seem like throwback, from when we were younger.
Right.
Between those two teams.
Yep, there's just some fun matchups in there.
Yeah, definitely. So, but yeah, I'm excited to see how it all kind of plays out here. So, we'll make our Stanley Cup picks coming up a little bit later on here too. So we'll do cream of the crop as well. We've got the AJM Automotive Pump the Brakes Full Throttle. We'll get to that coming up a little bit later on in the 8 o'clock hour too. So, but has it kind of sunk in yet, Brandon, for you that we're going to be at this time tomorrow or next week in Green Bay?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
What are you most curious about with this whole thing, or most excited about with next week? Because you and I, we both love, it's one of our favorite things. It's easily one of our favorite events. Then it'll be 10 years since we went to the first one outside of Radio City Music Hall when we were in Chicago.
Yes,
for that. So it's kind of 10 years later, we're going back in a different capacity this time,
right?
A little bit more in depth to it, but not to be a Debbie Downer or anything. I still question how Green Bay could pull this off.
That's kind of the biggest thing I'm wondering, just the infrastructure and everything. Like, what's the mechanics of how this looks?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm sure they have a plan in place, but I kind of want to just see how that works.
Yeah, because this is their Super Bowl.
Yeah, they're never getting a Super Bowl. This is the biggest thing that they're going to get.
Yep. And I don't know what the NFL envisions for their long-term plan for the draft, if it's just going to be a rotation like they have been. But if Green Bay wants it again, 20, 25, 30, whatever it's going to be, they got to nail it. Because I think there is a lot of skepticism, like, okay.
Just the infrastructure to be able to host it.
Right. And
we'll see.
To one thing that you can't control, weather.
Right.
Because there is going to be certain media members that will
Oh, I'm
complain about
sure.
it and such. But yeah, I again, not to be like that Debbie Downer. I'm curious how, because a lot of us have come back from like just Packer games, and it's a mess to try to get like. Here's my thinking, Brandon, because we're staying in Shawano. After that Thursday night, it is going to be a cluster. You know what? With like 100, probably more people.
Well, and that's
to
it.
Leave.
Oh no, because like Packer games, what 80,000?
Yeah, and there's probably more because just tailgaters, but still.
Yeah, but then you factor in for the draft, like, yeah, no, like, how many people are going to be leaving early? Probably not many, but some, I guess, maybe
some right after Green Bay picks,
right,
possibly,
right. But like those people aren't going very far because chances are the Packer fans, they're not going to be,
yeah, because I was thinking like when we were in Chicago and how we were watching it, and I think it was by the time like when Green Bay picked, we inched closer.
Yeah. Because the Packers are picking near pretty close near the end of the first round.
Yep. And, Chicago fans were picking 7th, Kevin White. So maybe some of them left at that point, whereas Green Bay, there's not going to be a lot of people that are going to leave early.
No.
So I definitely, I want to see how they manage that with everybody kind of leaving at the same time. But they're also Packers fans, so maybe they're just going to be like, no, we ain't leaving. Do they get them kicked out? How do you kick them out of that? Why? I don't know. I'm genuinely.
Part of me is almost kind of glad that we are staying a little bit away.
Yeah.
Because I'm just curious at midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 a.m. Like, what's that immediate place around there going to be like?
Yeah. Yeah. We may not get out of there though until 1 o'clock in the morning.
I am fully anticipating not having much sleep those days.
Yeah.
So by Friday morning, you and I could sound very interesting.
We may need a lot of guests to help us carry through Friday morning and such. And Friday is my favorite day of the draft.
Yes. Yeah. For you it is. Yeah.
I love day 2, rounds 2 and 3. That's where I want to be like. And honestly too, like after Friday morning, I might be able to like just kind of take a deep breath. No more. We don't have to worry about internet connection. With
you can get like a Friday afternoon nap in somewhere.
Hopefully in the car and such. But yeah. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
Yep, we'll see. All right. Shots clock is going to cut me off here in just a quick second here. So coming up, we'll catch up with Mike Renner. We'll talk some draft with him, get his thoughts on the draft overall, and maybe a little bit what Green Bay is going to be doing. So we'll hit that up, and then we'll do some cream of the crop and AJM Automotive grind my gears. Not AJM Automotive grind my gears. What am I doing? AJM Automotive pump the brakes, full throttle. See, I'm ready for the weekend. Lack of sleep this week, man. A lot of stuff going on. So. Anyways, there you go. Shot clock's there. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
to dismiss the case, but it was denied. It's out on $10,000 signature bond. Will be back in court coming up May 29th. A gavel drop has a 39-year-old man from Eau Claire sentenced in federal court related to drugs and specifically meth. 39-year-old Cody Hobbs was sentenced to 110 months in prison for 3 counts of distributing methamphetamine. As court records show, he was a repeat offender and moving pounds and pounds of drugs. Eau Claire City County Health Department launched a new way to track communicable diseases, saying that they have that dashboard so you can track things like flu, sexually transmitted diseases, and other things. You can find a link online. Check that out and how it works at 715newsroom.com. And hippity hoppity. Now, is there something wrong in the head if you start with the feet on a chocolate bunny? Nah, you're fine. In fact, get your ears ready for more Easter candy updates with Bree. Let's hop to it, shall we?
Business Insider says we'll drop over $3 billion on Easter candy this year. They say the breakdown is 16 million jelly beans, 1.5 billion peeps, and 91 million chocolate bunnies. The National Confectioners Association says 78% of us eat the bunny's ears first, 17% start at the feet, and 5% start at the tail. Psychology Today says there's nothing psychologically wrong with you if you start tail first. I'm Bree Tennis.
Similar process around here. You know, if Casper's in a bad mood, some of us plug our
ears first.
And that's okay.
Psychology Today says there's nothing psychologically wrong with you.
For Sports Talk 105.1, I'm Morgan McCarthy.
It's a mild start to our Friday as temperatures are mostly in the 50s across the area. That is coming with widespread cloud cover, and we are tracking more chances at scattered showers and thunderstorms today. But as the day goes on, those chances will gradually decrease. It will be cloudy and breezy, highs in the mid to upper 50s. For tonight, an early shower gives way to mostly to partly cloudy skies, 34. Overall dry this weekend, highs in the 50s. On 13 First Alert, meteorologist Derek Dahlman.
A lot of folks around here are breathing easier because of Grace Home Respiratory. They appreciate that Grace Home Respiratory is a local company that puts customer service first. They appreciate that Grace Home Respiratory provides an array of medical equipment, services, and supplies to help their recovery and enhance their quality of life. They appreciate that Grace Home Respiratory has the experience and qualifications that exceed their expectations. So when you need home medical equipment and services, turn to Grace Home Respiratory not only for the equipment you need, but for their dedicated staff of respiratory therapists who are on call 24 hours a day. To find out more, call Grace Home Respiratory at 715-832-7377 or online at ghr-ec.com.
Grace Home Respiratory always has your health and safety as their top priority. Your expert when it comes to medical equipment and supplies. Choose Grace Home Respiratory.
How is your car looking? Showing its age, faded paint, dents, dings? Well, don't worry. Maaco is here to help. The experts in affordable paint jobs and light collision repairs, helping you keep your car looking its best without breaking the bank. And most cars on the road could use a little love, a little TLC. And with Americans keeping their vehicles longer, protecting your investment has never been more important. At Maaco, they make it easy. Come in for a free estimate, and their expert technicians will handle the rest. With Maaco's national reach and community focus, you're not just getting top-notch service. You're actually getting a partner you can trust. Visit your local Maaco today to take advantage of their tax season paint specials and see how they can refresh your ride. It's really simple to do, and you got to protect that investment. It's never been more important. Most cars on the road could use a little bit of love, and that's what Maaco is great at doing, handing out love. Take advantage of the tax season paint specials and see how they can refresh your ride. Better get Maaco.
Rapid radios are instant push-to-talk walkie-talkies offering national LTE coverage. For a limited time, go to rapidradios.com now for 60% off and free UPS shipping. Add code radio and get an extra 5% off.
From the hardwood and the diamond to the gridiron and the course, Dan's got you covered with his trademark blend of sports passion and knowledge. He has the sports info you want and the sports therapy you need. So get your game face on, people.
Let's go get some bell, huh? Put up or shut up, sir. We gotta get it started from the jump. Play big. Let's go. That's what legends made, man. Showtime. Welcome to the big leagues. Let's go.
Because it's the Dan Kasper Show.
Final hour on this Friday morning before we are off for the weekend here. A big thanks for tuning in wherever or however you may be tuning in from. Coming up in a little bit, we'll get to our cream of the crop We'll play a little pump the brakes or full throttle, and then picks coming up at the back end of this hour. But we are going to catch up with our good friend Mike Renner. CBS Sports is joining us here, NFL draft analyst. Mike Renner, kind enough to join us here this morning. Also, Mike is the host of the Pushing the Pile podcast, along with Kyle Long, former NFL player Kyle Long. Mike, a big thanks for joining us and hanging out with us here in the Chippewa Valley this morning.
For sure. Thanks for having me on.
You got it. Hey, first off, with the draft, just kind of a general question. When you look at this draft, what are some of the position groups, in your opinion, that are maybe the deepest and maybe the weakest with this draft?
I think there's three that really stand out to me as the deepest. It's running back, tight end, and edge. I'd even maybe throw in defensive tackle in there too. All four of those classes are very good, whether it's some top-end talent, whether it's some depth. Those are the top. I think the weakest in this class, I think it's right up the middle of the field on the defense. I think linebacker and safety are not especially great classes. Linebacker specifically, I think that's probably the worst. I do think interior offensive line is not necessarily a great class, but it's more like pure interior offensive linemen. There's a lot of guys in this class who are kind of tweener tackles who, for some teams, you might kick inside. So I think if you're looking for an interior offensive lineman in this draft class, like, you should be scouting offensive tackles.
That kind of almost sounds like, too, that would fit a Packers kind of fit, too, because it feels like they look at those tackles or guys that play multiple positions on the offensive line, too.
Yes, I would be surprised if they didn't take a tackle in this draft class, just because there's so many of them that kind of fit that Packers mold. It's historically been where they've gone on. Literally, they just did it last year with Jordan Morgan. So, I think it's a draft class that sets up well for them.
So I got to ask, this is for my 7-year-old, because he asked me this the other day. So I'm like, I'm going to ask Mike this question. It's probably, everybody's wondering this, but my 7-year-old wants to know who should take Shedeur Sanders, Mike?
That's a great question. I'm of the opinion, I've had this idea for a while now. So whoever gets Travis Hunter, whether it's the Browns, whether it's the Giants, I think they should then trade back up and go get Shedeur Sanders. I think that would be, in my opinion, just a great combo to have those two. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it worked out so well at the collegiate level. I think Shedeur will fall. I don't think he is a top 10 pick anymore, but he would be within striking range for those teams at the top of the second round.
Is he the most intriguing prospect of this draft in terms of where he goes? Or is there, just straight up from a talent perspective, who do you think is the most intriguing prospect in this draft?
I think he is, just because of the position. Where is he going to play? Like he's obviously fully capable of doing both. I have him as both my cornerback one and my wide receiver one in this draft class. And that's obviously a combination that we've never said, like, no one. You can go back however long you want in draft history. There hasn't been a guy quite like Travis Hunter. So for that perspective, he's easily the most intriguing.
Outside of Travis Hunter, if you view him as a wide receiver or such, who do you think is the next best wide receiver amongst this group?
I think it's Ted McMillan. Not to say that he'll for sure be like the best. I just think he has the highest floor amongst the rest. He's got a massive catch radius. He's super smooth. He's just a great natural receiver of the football. And so I think that he, is just a very high floor possession type of wide receiver. And he doesn't have the explosive ability of some other guys in this class, but the rest is all there.
Mike Renner from CBS Sports is joining us, also host of the Pushing the Pile podcast, along with Kyle Long, talking some NFL draft with us. So I think if you ask most Packers fans or most Packer people out there, what's the biggest needs for this team entering this draft, you're going to hear defensive line or edge, a corner, wide receiver, as you mentioned, maybe some offensive line depth. Is there any players, when you kind of look at this draft and maybe where Green Bay's drafting at in their position, that just kind of stand out to you as like being really good picks for the Packers at like number 23 or in day 2?
I do think that, so there's, after Travis Hunter, there's two corners in this class that I have first round grades on. Will Johnson from Michigan, Jaire Barron from Texas. And I think we saw last year that teams prefer or have started preferring, like they've devalued corner, at least in the draft. Like Quinyon Mitchell went in the 20s last year, and he was an awesome prospect. I would put those guys kind of in that category of Terrion Arnold, Quinyon Mitchell, who went in that early 20 range. And you saw the impact that Quinyon Mitchell made as a rookie. I think that one of those guys, whether it's Jaire Barron from Texas, whether it's Will Johnson from Michigan, I think one of them will be on the board. And I think that might be where the value ends up being for this Packers team.
How big of a need, you hear Brian Gutekunst a couple weeks ago saying, talking about his defensive line and such, how a lot of fans that we talk to want to see that pass rusher. They want to see another edge rusher because maybe they're not sold on Lucas Van Ness. But when you look at Green Bay, they've technically got 4 first-round picks on there: Rashawn Gary, Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, and Lucas Van Ness. Do you still see that as, with how deep this class is, as a big need for Green Bay?
I don't see it as necessarily a need, but I think it's good team building to continue to strengthen your defensive line. I don't think you have to look too much further than the Eagles, right? To know that getting a unit that not only has good starters, but your second string can still rush the passer, can still be an effective unit. That's how you get to be, top defense in the NFL the way the Eagles were last year. So I think that to me is just something that I'd be interested in if I was the Green Bay Packers and Brian Gutekunst.
It's another year. It's kind of like, to quote, taking this from the Masters, a tradition unlike any other right now when it comes to a wide receiver and whether Green Bay is going to take one in the first round and such. And you mentioned Tet there. And then, tell us a little bit about your thoughts on Emeka from Ohio State, because that seems to be a kind of a popular one for Green Bay amongst all the mock drafts out there.
Yeah, Ibuka's just he's probably, so I'd said Tet's a really high floor. I think he's probably the second highest floor receiver in this class. He's just a guy with really good ball skills, really good route running ability. Obviously, he came from Ohio State. Everyone from Ohio State has really good route running ability. And then he's just a really smart, savvy receiver. He's going to block in the running game. That's obviously something that the Packers covet. So, I think that if he's the pick, you might not be like over the moon about it, but you should be pretty happy about it.
I know in your you had a 3-round mock draft just a few days ago, and you mentioned as one of your favorite day 2 fits for the Packers was CJ West, defensive tackle. Why do you think that's a good fit, or why do you like that fit for Green Bay?
I like it because they need that nose tackle presence, right? I think Kenny Clark at this point in time is just not, he's not the Kenny Clark we know and love. And you kind of relied on him to be that impact guy in the middle, at least, at minimum in the running game. You lost TJ Slayton over the course of the offseason. There is no guy who can really hold the point in that defense. And I watched West tape at Indiana, and they went from like a below average run defense the year prior to the number 2 run defense in the nation this past season. It was like they didn't have any other personnel changes. It was CJ West transferring in from Toledo who really transformed that run defense. So he may not be, an elite pass rusher or anything, but they really need that presence in the run game on that defensive front. So him in the 3rd, him in the 4th. There's a lot of good run defenders in this defensive tackle class. I think the Packers should definitely be taking advantage of it somewhere in the mid rounds.
Mike, before we let you go here, is there, maybe a guy or maybe a couple of guys that you feel like, whether they're first rounds or maybe day 2s, that are maybe getting a little underrated or maybe not mentioned a lot that you just really like, or you'd be pounding the table for?
Yeah, I think the one guy in the first round that if he falls to the Packers, I'd just be like, maybe it's not the biggest need, but I'm drafting him, is Derek Harmon from Oregon. I think that guy's just truthfully what a top 10 defensive tackle looks like. I don't see a lot of weaknesses in his game. He's a top 10 player for me in this class, and he's one that I've seen him getting mocked all the way, falling out of the first round for some people. And I'm just like, I don't see that at all. I think that guy's got it. So he's one in the first round. On day 2, I think the guy that I'm going back to is Kevin Winston Jr., the Penn State safety. Obviously not a position that the Packers are going to attack before like the 5th or 6th round for a special teamer. But to me, he's gotten flown way under the radar after tearing his ACL early on last season, but it was just a partial tear. He's back healthy now, and watch his tape as a sophomore. I think if he would have been healthy this year, he could have been safety 1 in this draft class.
So last question for you. You're the Browns, and assuming Cam Ward is the first pick, are you going Hunter or Abdul Carter?
I'm going to Abdul Carter. if you tell me I can have Myles Garrett and Abdul Carter for the next 5 years, because you extended Myles Garrett for the next 5 years, and you get Abdul Carter when you draft him for 5 years, you could have the two best edges in the NFL. I mean, that's Abdul Carter's ceiling. This guy is freakish athletically. I think within his rookie contract, he'll be a top 5 edge rusher in the NFL. Myles Garrett, obviously, I think for the next 5 years, you could probably bet on him being a top 5 edge rusher in the NFL. Last time we saw a duo that was both top 5 guys, it was like the Broncos with DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller, and that defense won a Super Bowl. So to me, it's not really a debate. That's what I want if I'm the Browns. Obviously, Travis Hunter, insane player, not going to denigrate him any means. It's just for the Browns specifically, give me Abdul Carter.
I know Travis Hunter said the other day that, he's wanting to play both, and if he's not allowed to, he'll quit football and such. But I mean, would you play him both ways if you drafted him?
I would. I think he can do it. I've been saying that, it's easier. I think a lot of people said defense for him because it's easier to like get a few packages on offense that he can run and have come in on third downs or whatever. He's not going to do both full time. That's just impossible. But I'm of the opinion that if he's wide receiver full time, and I think that's where like the value is. Wide receivers get paid a lot more, and I think he's exceptional at it. Could be a top of the NFL sort of guy. He can go play goal line. When you're in the red zone, you're not running 40 yards down the football field getting you gas. You're running 10 to 15 yards. You're going laterally. It's not nearly the ask of him. So he plays wide receiver on offense. When you get to the red zone, he comes in, plays either slot or whatever, and can be a value add in that way. I think that's what I'd see as his best sort of path to making that double side, that two-way impact.
He's Mike Renner from CBS Sports, draft analyst for CBS Sports, also host of the Pushing the Pile podcast with Kyle Long. Dude, appreciate the time as always. Love always chatting with you and picking your brain. So enjoy the draft and hopefully catch up with you again soon.
For sure, Dan. Thanks so much for having me. Go Pack Go.
You got it. There you go. Mike Renner joining us again here this morning. Good stuff as always from Mike. And again, a big thanks to him and some of the other guests that we got coming up here in the next few days because, well, Brandon, this is their Super Bowl week, so I know they're really busy and such. And so for them to take some time, a few minutes, and educate us.
Yes, share their expertise.
Exactly. So, all right, let's take a quick break and let's do a little cream of the crop, shall we? Let's do that. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Again, big thanks to Mike Renner for joining us. If you missed that portion of the conversation, we'll put it up in podcast form a little bit later on this morning. So I think, Brandon, I don't know, I'm straight up asking you this live on the air and that, but we last year did our 7-round mock for our team. Should we do that in Green Bay?
We can.
Do it like Thursday?
Yeah.
Of Green Bay while we're there?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. Just kind of, I'm going in with the mindset next week, Thursday and Friday, no game plan. Just we're going to be hanging out literally within feet of the draft stage and talking. And that's why I've been telling guests, no time, just stop by. Between this time frame.
We'll have brats.
Well, just stop by. We'll just kind of, have some fun and talk some draft and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, but let's do our 7-round mock from Green Bay.
We can do that.
So if that works for you, because I know we mentioned it, but
we've done it. Yeah, we did it last year and it was a lot of fun. I think people liked it, but yeah, we can do that next week.
Because what we do, if you still want to do this, we pull up one of the mock.
Yeah, we use one of the mock
simulators,
and then we just kind of basically I take over the Vikings, you take over the Packers, and we, it runs. And then when our picks come up, we make picks or we're offered trades or we make offers for trades, and at the end we share what we got.
Yeah. So that should be a lot of fun. And I'll do my first round and see if I can get 5 right this year. But let me ask, who do you think is the most intriguing player in this draft? And I guess you can take about it different ways, like just from a talent perspective or where they're going to go. Is it Shedeur?
It might be. I mean, just because, you're always going to have a little extra attention with the quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And this year is not as good overall of a draft class as last year.
Mm-hmm.
We know, and barring something unforeseen, Cam Ward's going number 1.
Yeah.
So where does Shedeur go after that? Does he go to a team like, because he met with Giants, I believe it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Where he could sit for a year because they already have Russell Wilson and James Winston.
Yep.
Is it New Orleans?
Yeah.
Is it, does Cleveland trade back into the first round if he slips? Is it the Steelers who are in quarterback purgatory right now? Like, is it a team we don't even think of? Is it some team like maybe, I don't know, like the Rams or something? We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for that reason, I guess I will say him.
Because there was, you mentioned that, but look what the Falcons did last year.
Right. Right. And now a year later, it was probably the right move.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They kind of hedged their bet and it worked.
Yeah.
But otherwise, if that's not the obvious one, for me, someone I'm really interested to see is Ashton Genty.
Yeah.
Just to see, because how high is he viewed? Because it could, kind of just taking the temperature from a bunch of different experts and stuff, it could be as early as the Raiders at 6, I believe they're at.
Yep.
That it could be there. I think he's been connected with the Bears. Just
That's what I was wondering.
Because of Ben Johnson wants to establish the football. He always loves to have a good running back combination based on what we saw in Detroit. But does someone else leapfrog up there?
That's where I was wondering. It's like that 6 to 10 range. It feels like where he's kind of
in a really good running back class. Is he the guy that's up? Some teams say, hey, these other guys are good, but this guy's something else.
Right.
Is it him?
Mm-hmm. That's the thing too. Is if you're with that running back, I feel like if you're going to move up for running back, you better be confident. Okay, this is him.
This is the guy.
That is a dude right over there. So, yeah, I think those are good names to throw in there for sure. The Shedeur one, I'm really curious about. And I know people are getting tired, and I'm getting tired of it, to be honest with you. But it's for people who like to do mock drafts, it's okay, maybe, I could see him maybe go top 3, top 5, but then fall down to 21.
Right. Because quarterbacks are always going to kind of get the benefit of the doubt.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if you heard this part, but when I was asking Mike about it, he's he thinks whoever drafts Hunter should then trade up or trade back to get Shedeur.
Well, the first team I think of there's the Browns.
Mm-hmm.
They have 2. If Shedeur does fall to the mid to later-ish part of the first round,
mm-hmm.
The Browns have, I believe, the 33rd pick.
Yep.
So there could be a packaging in there.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, but you know what's going to happen if those two are on the same team? Then I'm sorry for whoever the head coach is, because you're going to get the Dion rumors.
Right, even though he just inked the big extension with Colorado. You're right. And
mm-hmm.
if it were Cleveland, just for example, Kevin Stefanski's not exactly, on super steady ground right now.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, Abdul Carter. Yeah, so it's like Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter. I feel like whoever drafts one of those guys, whoever goes first, the next guy is going to be you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
so if
Yeah,
it's
but
Abdul Carter second, then it's Hunter. If it's Hunter, then it's Abdul Carter.
Right.
I feel like. So, other than that, there's a lot of edge prospects in this thing too. And would you rather see your Vikings trade out of the first round and get more picks in this thing?
I would. I mean, obviously, it's always going to come down to what you're getting. Like, I would ideally like for them to try to get another day 3 pick. Like they've only got 4 picks right now, so they're not going to end up coming out of this draft with 10 picks. Like, but I think just with the way this draft is, like, for me, that sweet spot is kind of those first 3 rounds.
Yep.
And if you can trade back into that early second round, there's plenty of options in there potentially. But again, we don't know. Like, given the depth of this class, there also might not be as many teams looking to trade up. If they think, okay, well, we could get somebody at 24, we could also still get something pretty good at 34. So that's just going to kind of be the dance. We'll see.
Right. Yep. So of these teams, which team do you think you're really intrigued by with what they're going to do in this draft? Like, so I'll throw out this example, like the Raiders. I'm going to say the Raiders here for a couple things because you've got Pete Carroll coming in. Tom Brady, I think, has a lot of influence as an owner. This is where I keep kind of going back and forth. Like, I could see Ashton going there for the Raiders. Because you look at, okay, Pete Carroll, Marshawn Lynch, you're thinking the Seattle days of running football, and his offensive coordinator is Chip Kelly. That's the other part. But then there's a part of me, Brandon, where I'm like, well, when Tom Brady was still playing, he was helping out a younger high school quarterback. And that was somebody named Shedeur Sanders. So and I'm like, okay. But Pete Carroll's a defensive-minded head coach. Does he go defense, like defensive tackle or something? Like, or do they try to build up the offensive? The Raiders, to me, is just really like, I feel like 1 through 5, you can make a solid case of like, okay, Cam Ward, then it's going to be either Hunter or Carter, then it's going to be Hunter or Carter. Patriots, probably an offensive lineman. Jaguars, probably a defensive tackle or something over there. But then Raiders, to me,
that's kind of where it opens up a little bit.
Yeah, like you can make the case for a lot of different players there. And because it's like, okay, yes, it's Pete Carroll, a defensive head coach, but then Chip Kelly's the freaking offensive coordinator, which kind of throws a wrench into it. It's not like the Seattle days,
right?
Essentially,
and the thing with Pete Carroll too, like, I mean, while he has the energy of a guy in his 30s, he's still in the 70s,
right?
Like,
and is he going to want to draft a quarterback? I don't know.
Right? Is this something where you're looking that they're looking at like a 5-year plan,
right?
Or is it kind of the idea of him coming in like, okay, we're going to give this franchise a jolt. We want to be back to competitiveness, like, right away. And if that's the case, then you do something else.
But then it's like Sanders in Vegas,
right?
I don't think Brady wouldn't, but I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm curious to see how much influence Brady would actually have in this thing. But that to me is an intriguing team just because of the voices in that building. Because Pete Carroll hasn't had an offensive coordinator like Chip Kelly at the NFL level. It's always been, when you think about Seattle, it's been run. So I don't know if that's going to play into this, but that to me is like one of the very hard teams because I feel like the Bears are really hoping Ashton falls because I think if he's there, I think that's like as close to a lock as possible for a pick. And then if he's not, then you're like, okay, do they go tight end then? To add because Ben Johnson had Sam Laporta. Yes, they got Cole Kmet, but maybe he wants to do a double tight end, sort of thing. So that to me is really, I think the Ashton pick, where he goes, is really going to kind of change the draft boards for a lot of people after number 6. I feel like, I don't know, but maybe I'm overlooked. I don't know. It's just, it's interesting. And then, you look at, obviously, what do the Cowboys do at 12? Well, nobody knows what the hell the Cowboys are going to do at 12. I mean, they can
whatever Jerry Jones is feeling, I guess, at that moment.
Right. Yeah. So, do you have a favorite prospect in this one?
I mean,
not necessarily for the Vikings, but like player wise, because there's always this player like, gosh, would love it if my team would get him.
I mean, like trying to think of like realistically someone that would be there for Minnesota, because I mean, Travis Hunter to me is just fascinating. Like what he wants to do, what he's going to probably get the opportunity to do. I want to see how that works. I don't know, like, because with the Vikings, there's so many there's so many directions they could go, and I'd be fine with it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they could go get a guard, even though it's not the greatest like positional value. Like, if they went and got a guard and to kind of throw that last piece of solidifying the offensive line, I wouldn't be mad.
Mm-hmm.
If they went on the defensive line, even though they spent money on Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargraves, I wouldn't be mad because that's someone that can still work in.
Mm-hmm. Safety.
Cornerback or safety, that's fine. Like, I honestly, I would even be fine if the Vikings drafted a wide receiver. Because we know Kevin O'Connell wants to throw the ball. And if they do something that helps J.J. McCarthy, I'm fine with it.
Mm-hmm. What about a running back?
It would at that spot, I feel like with what they have now, I mean, Aaron Jones coming back, they made the trade for Jordan Mason.
Yep.
So, like, I wouldn't mind seeing them draft a running back, but I don't know if in the first round, because I think there's a little bit harder avenue of that person getting to play right away. And even in, something Kevin O'Connell said recently is like, they're pretty open on, kind of the direction they'd like to go, but they want to get somebody that can, has an avenue to play sooner than later.
So, like, say Hampton from North Carolina.
I mean, it'd be okay. I think just it would not be my first choice based on that spot.
Because he was a little bit different than Aaron Jones. So it'd give you, know, he's bigger, obviously. So, but is it a lock that the Eagles will sit there at 32 and we're going to say, how the hell did they get that guy?
Yeah. Eagles, maybe Ravens.
Yeah. Like, how that? Like, of course they get that guy.
Those are always the two teams that always just seem like they're on another level from everybody else.
Yeah.
When it comes to, like, when you see the, when the draft analysts come out with their, day one winners or, day two winners and losers, whatever, Eagles and the Ravens inevitably will be in the winners group, because they know how to play the game. It's not a coincidence that every year they're usually really good teams.
Yeah. I feel like I'm glad you mentioned the Ravens too, because they're always that team. It's like, how did it work out where they get that guy?
Yeah, last year it was Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, two guys who had legitimate first round buzz. And Quinyon Mitchell was higher, like upper first round, and they landed both. And obviously they were very important people for the Eagles winning the Super Bowl.
And I think a couple of years ago it was Jordan Davis. Like, how really? They are, but God, they know what Howie Roseman's a smart dude, man.
Yes, he is.
He's a really smart dude, and it annoys me at times that happens inside. Okay, I promise I wasn't going to bring it up, but I have to, since we're talking draft. But if you are the Steelers and you heard some of the comments from Rodgers yesterday, I'm not going to talk about Rodgers in terms of what he all has, but in terms of what he said and from a Steelers perspective, should you be concerned? Does it alter your draft strategy at all? Because he came off as a guy that kind of seemed like he was still undecided.
Right. I don't think so, because I still think, regardless, you need a younger quarterback, even if it's someone. And assuming Shooter doesn't fall all the way down, so I think they're 21.
Yeah.
If you're going with that next group of guys, be it a Jackson Dart or a Jalen Milroe, like, those guys are still guys that are going to need some time to sit anyway. Now, whether that, I don't know if that's, that's a first round pick, but whatever, you never know. But like, I still think you need to come out of there. You need to come out of the draft, regardless of what Aaron Rodgers decides to do, with a better quarterback situation than you currently have, which is Mason Rudolph. You gotta be better than that. Like, you're not going to finish above 500 with Mike Tomlin, as much as he is able to always do that with Mason Rudolph.
Well, that's why, you mentioned Mike Tomlin, I guess, too. If there is probably I think with a guy like, again, I don't like it that we keep saying, because I do get fatigued with it too, but I think when you come with a guy with Sanders on there, I think you have to look at who's the head coach in place, because that is going to be a lot of talk. Tomlin, I think, could do it. Pete Carroll, I think, could do it too. Giants, with all the stuff, no. Just
right.
because
like, if you're the Giants, like, even though you could do that, like, your coach and your GM are playing for their job. If you're playing for your job, are you going to draft a quarterback that may not play next year?
Right.
Or are you going to draft Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, which are going to give you a better shot to win right now when you need to win right now? I could understand why they would do it, but I don't think they will, just because either of those guys I just mentioned are going to help them keep their job. Try to get to 7 wins or whatever it's going to take for the owner to say, okay, we'll give you another year.
So let's do really quick because we got to get to picks here, and I blanked. Cream of the crop and the AJM Automotive Pump the Brakes or Full Throttle. So we'll start it off with a little cream of the crop. Your cream of the crop is?
I'm gonna go bit of a story here. Last night I spent some time at the 37th annual Triple County Special Olympians versus the Triple Falls Police Department annual basketball game. It's always a big fundraiser for the Special Olympians. Our buddy Justice Cleveland and his dulcet tones were on the call over the PA system at High. I'm going to give a shout out to both of those groups because it's a really big event. It's always an event I like being able to go to. The Special Olympians picked up the win. They continued their dominance in that series. I think the police department's gonna have to go back to the drawing board a little bit there, but yeah, it's always a really good night, a great crowd out for the event. Raised a lot of money for a really good cause.
Nice, well said. I mentioned him in the first hour for a little tip of the cap, but I'm gonna go Ryan Ramchek, who called it a career due to injuries, but I think it's a fantastic story. He's a Stevens Point kid. Played at UW Stevens Point before going to the Badgers and became a first-round pick.
Yeah.
And he was pretty darn good,
Yes,
too.
He was. In his prime, he was a high-level tackle.
Yep, so that's my cream of the crop. Let's do a couple of Pump the Brakes or Full Throttle. Again, brought to you by our good friends at AJM Automotive, who is one of our draft partners for our coverage next week. So, all right, Sanders has been a topic here. So, I'll obviously, the other side of it, Colorado getting their numbers retired and such. So Dion the other day just said that, let's be real. If it didn't have Sanders as the last name, you guys wouldn't be saying any of this. And, that's why it's made a big deal. Pump the Brakes or Full Throttle. That even, let's take away the last name Sanders. This would still be a big deal. Say it's Shadur Williams with no relation to the head coach.
I'm going to say, given the circumstances, I'm going to still say Full Throttle just because it's been, 2 years?
Yeah.
And
the fact that Cordell Stewart's.
Yeah. And let's put it this way. He may not even be the most impactful number 2 in Colorado history when you factor in Deion Figures, who's a big part of those teams of the later 80s, early 90s that won a national championship.
Yeah.
He went on to play in the NFL. It was just, I think, just too soon. They literally just left college. They were just there. That was my bigger thing. It's not necessarily who, it's the timing. How often do you see athletes getting their number retired literally right after they leave?
Yeah, I agree with you. Full Throttle. It gets maybe a little bit more attention because it is Sanders, but still, I think there'd still be questions about the fact okay, there's other guys that probably deserve it. So I get it. Deion's playing. That card and such, and I understand that, but let's be real. It's not even questionable best. It's a bad decision. I think it's just a straight up bad decision at this point. So let's do Pump the Brakes Full Throttle with Damian Lillard probably playing now in the postseason. This makes the Bucks the favorites in the first round series against the Pacers.
I'm going to still pump the brakes a little bit because I still think this is a toss-up, coin flip of 50-50. But as we said earlier, it helps. So, but I'm not ready to say, okay, the Bucks are going to win in 5. I still think, like you said, 6 minimum.
I'm going to pump the brakes too.
Probably going 7.
Yeah, I'm going to pump the brakes a little bit there too. Not stomping on it, but just kind of, slow stop.
Applying some pretty solid pressure.
Yep. So Aaron Rodgers yesterday in his interview that he kind of said nothing, said, I told every single one of the teams I talked to, it ain't about the money. I'll play for 10 M's. I don't care. I never once said I need a multi-year deal, 30 million, 40 million. That's absolute bull. I said, I'll play for 10, whatever. Buying that, pumping the brakes, or Full Throttle that Aaron will play for $10 million.
On some hand, I'm going to actually go Full Throttle. I kind of believe him in that. I do believe at this point he really wants to end on a better note. So
Mhm.
I could see that. It doesn't happen too often, but I will agree with him, I guess, on that. I do think he probably took less. It is funny just to hear him flat out say, like, I'll play for nothing. I'll play for $10 million. Like, that's still a good amount of money. But like for him, I get it. Like it's different, but still, like I do believe him that he will play for less than maybe some people thought.
Mm-hmm. I think he would play for less. I don't know if it would be 10.
Right.
That to me is like, okay, I don't know about that one.
Maybe you say 10 so you can get 20, because otherwise you would say, like, you do what Russell Wilson did when you had the offsetting language where you could get you play for 2 because you're still getting paid whatever. Like, he's still getting money.
Yep. Last one with this one here too. Pump the brakes or full throttle. So Aaron was essentially pissed off that he flew out to the Jets on his own dime and to be told face to face that they were moving on, and said that couldn't be done over the phone or FaceTime, if you will.
Depending on the reception.
Yeah, depending on it, because he made that comment again yesterday about his reception. You can only FaceTime me out here, which his internet was freezing a couple times during the interview. Pump the brakes, full throttle. Rodgers has a legit gripe for having to fly out there to be told we're moving on after 20 minutes of meeting.
I'm going to pump the brakes because they told him face-to-face. If they went to told him face-to-face, would you complain they couldn't tell him face-to-face?
Bingo! That's where I was going to go. Okay. Goody apparently couldn't get a hold of you because of the reception. So what's no FaceTime? We're going to take away any excuse about electronics not being able to get to you. Fly out here so we can tell you face-to-face.
I give him credit. Going face-to-face saying, hey, you know what? We're going to go a different direction.
I mean, Aaron, it sounded like the guy who wanted to be broke up in an email when you're not supposed to do that.
No.
You're supposed to break it up in person, and I give credit to the Jets for saying, come out here so we can tell you no. So I agree with you. I get it. You're upset. He did not have to put the line in there saying, when I fly out there on my own dime, you're not going to get any sympathy points by saying
Well, maybe
that.
that's why the money went from $9 million to $10 million.
Yeah.
He made make sure he had that expense covered.
I just did he realize he had to have known he just kind of casually threw that in there for effect, right? I mean, come on now. There's other stuff we could go throughout this whole thing, but I mean, it was just, yeah. We still don't know anything. So, and I don't care. I don't know if anybody cares at this point. So
you get the attention you want, though.
Yeah, he did. He's got a new puppy too. Apollo, apparently. I don't know if he's a big Rocky fan or Creed fan, maybe. So, all right, that's your Pump the Brakes or Full Throttle, brought to you by AJM Automotive. We'll take a quick break, and we got some picks coming up. We'll do that as we wrap up this hour after these quick words. Wrapping up this Friday morning with some picks brought to you by the Elbow Room in Eau Claire. We got lots of picks to get to here, so let's jump right into it. First off, let's do some baseball picks. So we got some series coming up. Start off with the Twinnies. They're going to be visiting Atlanta for taking on the Braves. Who wins that series, Brandon?
I'm going to go the Braves 2 out of the 3.
2 out of 3? All right. Are we just going to do 2 out of 3 on all of them?
Almost likely. That's kind of hedging my bets a little bit there. I'm too chicken to pick a sweep.
Oh, chicken and an elbow. Yeah, see, you do the elbow room. That's kind of like a chicken wing.
Do chickens have elbows?
Well, they got a wing. So
is there an elbow on the wing?
I don't know.
I
don't know either. Yeah, I'm gonna go Braves. Taking 2 out of 3 as well. So, some other baseball ones. Okay, so we got a little bit here. We can hammer through this. Let's do Arizona visiting the Cubs. Burns and Colin Ray today, by the way. So,
Brewer matchup. I'm gonna go with the D-backs.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Diamondbacks too. That NL West is crazy, man.
It's tough.
It's really tough. So, yeah, I'm good.
4 good teams and the Rockies.
Yeah, the lowly Rockies. Royals taking on the Tigers.
I'm gonna go with the Tigers. 2 or 3.
I'm gonna go Tigers too. So, let's do Cardinals at Mets.
Mets.
Same. Let's do Dodgers at the Rangers.
Dodgers.
I'm gonna go Dodgers too. Let's do there we go. Okay. Giants. I'm gonna throw this one there. Giants at the Angels.
Giants.
And then before we get to the Brewers, Padres at the Astros.
Ooh, I'm gonna go the Fathers.
Me
the
too.
Padres.
I'm gonna go Padres too. And then Brewers A's.
Brewers.
Brewers too. So 2 out of 3 for all of them.
I think so.
Yeah. Brewers need at least 2 out of 3, in my opinion.
Yes.
At least. All right. Your Stanley Cup picks. Who are you going to roll with?
Ooh.
Who you got in the Stanley Cup final and the winner?
I'm going to go with Carolina out of the East. And tough out of the West because I want to try to go somewhere besides Edmonton.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not. But you know what? I will go Edmonton. I'm going to go Carolina, Edmonton. Edmonton gets it.
Okay. So Edmonton gets it.
Edmonton over Carolina.
This is what I want to happen. But so I'm going to do it. Why not? Edmonton versus the Capitals. And I am going to go with the Capitals, with Ovi's year and the Capitals winning. And I just want Ovi to have another Stanley Cup celebration to end that. So I'm going to go a little different. Edmonton and the Capitals. I like that series. I like that a lot. So, all right, NBA playoffs. Should we go through each or do you just want to go who? We'll do a couple things. How far do the Bucks advance, and then your NBA Finals pick?
The last few years I've picked the Bucks and it hasn't worked. So I kind of want to reverse jinx, but I feel like if I bring up the reverse jinx, I can't reverse jinx. So I'm gonna say the Bucks in 7.
I got Bucks in 7 too, and I think they just win one playoff series.
Same.
But yeah, 7 games. Who do you have in the finals and winning the finals?
I will go with Boston out of the East, which is crazy, shocker. And I will go OKC out of the West.
Okay.
And I will take Boston.
I am going OKC as well. I am going Cleveland and OKC winning. So chalk. Both of ours are chalk. I do have one major upset in the first round, though. I'm going to go Warriors over Rockets.
Okay.
In a 2-7 matchup. Rockets are really young. Playoff Jimmy, Steph Curry, that veteran team there.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Warriors with an upset over the Rockets. That's my one major upset in this thing. Otherwise, I hope the Do you think Timberwolves win a playoff? I mean, they're Lakers though, so I don't.
I would love to see it.
Yeah. Knock out LeBron and Luka.
I would, mostly because you can give some people something else to talk about.
Yep.
But
Gosh.
yeah, I'm pulling big time for the two Wolves,
Mm-hmm.
especially in this opening series.
I am too, but I
They're
don't think it's gonna
nah,
happen.
Lakers they got a lot. Like that's tough.
Yep. So all right, that's just a quick edition of Picks and Predicts, again brought to you by the Elbow Room. Pretty much our picks next week are going to be all draft picks by the time we get to Thursday and Friday and such. So all right, just a couple minutes left here. Spring sports season, by the way, Brandon, in full swing right now.
We have now, yeah. Mother Nature moved some things around yesterday. Not really much going on today with it being Good Friday. So, but we've gotten everything in full gear now. We've got, we've reached the conference stuff for, baseball, softball, golf, track and fields had some meets, like boys tennis, girls soccer. They're all underway. Mother Nature is making them work for it, but yeah, we're going now. And
Steel made the playoffs.
Steel,
too.
yep, they are opening up the NHL playoffs today and tomorrow in Eagle River. They got the Wendigo. A reminder, it's best of 5 series. Next week, games 3 and 4 will be hosted by the Steel, but those games will be hosted in Rice Lake.
Do you know? Is there just
there was some technical difficulties at Triple Ice Arena?
Gotcha.
So like this week they practiced at Hobbs. Next week they'll be practicing at Rice Lake and also playing at games there. So yeah, there was just some technical stuff going on, so they're unable to play there.
Gotcha.
So.
All right, that works. So, all right, only a minute left here, Brandon. Any final thoughts? Because the next time you're going to be on,
I'll be next Thursday.
Be next Thursday.
It'll be bright and early, and I'll be sugared up.
Nervous. Brandon knows what I'm nervous about right now too.
Yeah,
so
I'm anxious. Yeah. But you're putting together more of this. Like to me, there's a difference between being nervous and anxious.
Yeah.
Like you have reasons to be nervous. I just have reasons to be anxious right now. But
yeah, I got a lot on the plate.
Yes.
And I'm hoping some of it gets resolved today.
Yes.
So we'll see how it goes. But all right. But yeah, and then we've got mutual friend Eric Balkman, who's our fantasy football. He's actually going to be back on this fall with us for fantasy football, and he's going to be doing his show over there too. So we're going to be hanging out with him too. So that'll be a lot of fun. He's actually going to be at the bar right after DP. So that'll be cool for him.
Yeah.
So, but
that's a heck of a 1-2 combo. I mean that's speaking my language as far as radio people go. You start with DP and the Danettes, and then you go into Eric. So
yeah, because it's right after, I believe.
Yeah,
so he's going to be right after. So that'll be good. Good for him. So be a lot of fun. But
hope to see you guys, everybody there.
I know
if you're going, let us know.
Well, that's what. Really quick, I only got a few seconds. Should we work on like a little time for a little meetup?
If
for
people want to meet up, absolutely.
All right.
Yep.
Well, we'll figure that out.
Yep.
So, all right. Have a good weekend, everybody. We'll be back at it again Monday morning, 6 a.m. Talk to you then.